This is Naoki Yoshida.
This is Fern Hall.
And you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm Fugex. Joining me today, we've got Zen, we've got Aldino, we've got Rook, and joining us once again, we've got Glenn Ángel. Glenn, welcome to the show again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So today is the day. Patch 5.3 review. We have thoughts on things. We will be getting into spoiler territory. So if you have not finished 5.3 and the various amounts of side content that it has to offer, you might hear about it today. So that's why it says spoiler in the stream title. So you have been properly warned.
We don't want you to go away, but if you must, you must.
Right. Yes. We don't want to be those people that ruin something for you. So
meanwhile, everyone in the chat is like, "Yeah, finally spoilers, you guys, come on."
I know. Seriously, it has been the most agonizing, like, post-patch release couple of, like, week and a half, 2 weeks here. Everybody has been getting through it, and then you see just in the spoilers channels on every Discord this, like, onslaught.
Yeah. It's hard because there's always, I mean, we have that patch spoiler discussion on our Discord, discord.gg/gamerscape. And it's like, as soon as you're done, you want to talk about it, right? But you also have to acknowledge that, you know, some people don't take the day off from work and go through it that same day. And so we need to be a little nice. Next week will be the lore cast for it, so we're gonna dive even deeper into all the story stuff next week, so make sure to tune in for that. But first, we have a few little pieces of news.
It's so refreshing to have news again, isn't it?
Remember news? I remember news. So Moonfire Fair is running till the 29th, and Yokai Watch is running now, which will go up until the release of 5.4. So you have some time. Don't feel the need to rush that.
You remember how I said I was never going to do Yokai Watch before, and I might do it now? I actually had to start the quest. Like, I'd never started the quest before. Didn't have my watch, anything. Went to Alda,
Nice.
had to look for the quest. It's okay,
no.
So they have made it way easier from what I've heard. Like I said,
Yeah.
never done
I've
it
heard that
before,
too.
but
I haven't checked it out myself yet, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did it for one night so far, and I have 3 weapons and 4 minions. Actually, I have all but 2 of the minions because the regular medals just rain from the sky. But yes, it's, if you have some free time, it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah,
I've
it
heard
seems a lot easier than what I thought, because this is my first time ever doing yokai, and I got it and I was like, oh, but I also forgot how to get this other specific, the legendary medal, so I wasted a few fates with that, but you know, you live and learn.
I did that as well. I was like, I haven't gotten any of these. Are they like a terrible drop rate? And they're like, no, put your watch on.
But
yeah, that
as
thing.
a note, be sure that if you've been farming the fate, that if you queue into something, you take the watch off.
Yeah.
Because I have done several roulette runs with people, and we get to the end and they're like, oh, so I had my yokai watch on the whole time. And you're like, well, that did not help you, now did it? So make sure you take that off. But I have heard that it's a lot easier. It seems like obviously they've lowered the costs of a lot of the different rewards. However, I've heard that people are hoping the fate gets rebalanced a little bit, because it seems like sometimes you show up and it literally has spawned and then is gone.
Right. And the original areas, definitely, they pop up and they're dead. And Heaven's Word and Stormblood areas, they take a little bit longer, at least when I was doing them. Chat's saying Glenn's a little low.
Oh. I can raise myself a bit as well. Hello.
Right.
I wanted to. Is that good?
I think it'll be better. It's always a little tricky sometimes to get the levels balanced for the stream. If they are wildly off, we will have it better on the podcast, or on the downloadable MP3. So just in case that does happen, I know it does happen sometimes, but we have a system in place. We can rebuild it. We can make it louder. So
I wanted to ask about blue mages.
Oh yeah,
the fates, right?
Okay.
'Cause that's a hot button issue that we kind of talked about in the pre-show.
Yeah.
Yay or nay? Blue mage is okay.
I say
I mean,
yay.
Yeah.
yay!
Might as
They gotta have
well.
something they can do.
Right.
Like, you know
There's
what I
only
mean?
so much that they can do. You might as well. You might as
I feel
well.
like the people playing Blue Mage just need to be considerate of if whether or not there are other people in the zone. Like if there's nobody else obviously farming the fates with you, then go ahead, tail screw
Blow it
and
up.
kill that boss in 2 seconds. But if there are other people who are, like we said, trying to get to the fates and they're dying in 2 seconds, maybe just hold off a little bit. Let them get some credit.
It does create sort of like an interesting issue that we've never actually really had in the game with previous, seasonal events or
Mhm.
fate events and things, because
Mhm.
Blue Mage obviously you can't take into a lot of different content, but the fact that they are pretty much just open game for most things on the map, I'm curious to see if after this event we might see things where like you can't sink into the fate if you're a
Right.
Blue Mage, or if they just leave it open so it's completely ridiculous. I mean, I have no idea, but especially in stuff like this where people might need to get together to participate in something, it does create this weird issue of like, well, what happens if the boss or the creature or the thing is not tuned to what Blue Mages can do?
I mean, and that's completely fair. But I think like the last thing they want to do is like further limit the limited job. Like, wait,
Yeah.
that's like the one way to make people care even less about it. So I don't think that they want to do that. But I mean, the benefit too is right. Like, Fates will show up again. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you'll still be able to, you know what I mean? So it's who knows? I don't think they would do that, but
Mhm.
Right before the
I don't know.
patch, I actually was playing a lot of Blue Mage because it actually is one of my
Mm.
favorite jobs. I love the visuals of all the spells. And then going into this, I was like, oh, I can't wait till they actually start. And then I was confused why people were so angry, and then I realized I don't use like the death spell. Because for
Mhm.
me, I like all the other visuals. One of my favorite ones is Bad Breath and Flamethrower. It just looks so
Yeah.
beautiful. And I forget about like Missile, level 5 Death, and Tailscrew because also it kind of cheapens it, especially because it costs so much MP and then probably has a long cooldown. I don't use them
Mhm.
because it's like it's a one-time thing while I can get my Shiva bow every like 90 seconds,
Yeah.
jump on people like Brute Justice, and that for me is more fun. So I get
Mhm.
why people are angry. I actually tried it once. I did miss. I was like, oh my, I forgot what it did, and it just brought the boss down to 50%. I'm like, oh, that's why people don't like this.
or in
Sorry,
Zen's
sorry.
case, it's like, look, you can shoot the missile like once and kill a thing, or you can hit
Or-
it 30 times with a fish.
With a
Fish
fish in the
spit.
face.
With the fish.
Yes.
Fish
Right
spit's
in the
my favorite
face.
spell. I don't
Fish
even
spit.
call it the right thing. It's what, Stardian Toss? No, it's fish spit.
Yep.
Don't you just love
Okay,
freezing
so
all of them?
Yeah.
Yes, that's really fun
Yeah.
too.
in case the Moonfire Fair and Yokai Watch going on right now wasn't enough, starting on August 27th, the Rising event is back. So there's actually a couple of days overlap. So we'll have 3 events running at once for 2 days, which is wild. But this year, there's an Ardbert minion, as well as a amazing painting of Nanamo and the Sultana 7, which is awesome.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's a
really
gorgeous
curious
picture.
to see how the event differs now, if that's like a theme that they're kind of rolling with. It reminds me of that the short story from 2.0 they had with basically what was kind of going down in Ul'dah when Dalamud was doing its thing,
Yeah.
and so I'm really excited to see what happens with this.
I can't
Yeah.
wait for our yearly cryptic metaphor about what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rewards this time around definitely made me curious about what they
Right.
were going to be doing. And also, which we'll be getting into with our actual review here of 5.3, some of the ways that they've been kind of cohesively taking side content and then using it as a way to kind of forward our actual momentum through like possible stuff coming up in an expansion and all sorts of things. It really made me wonder, seeing those rewards, like, are we going to get something that really is, I don't know, like bulking out some sort of the world or some part of the world that
Give
may
us
be
the
relevant
Nanamo
for us?
expansion.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's go. I'm ready. I've been waiting my whole life for the Nanamo expansion.
I mean, she's had a lot of great character development,
Right.
honestly. Like, we've seen her have some personal arcs that have been so good, so I could see her playing a larger role. Like,
She
in
she
a
died, she
subtext arc.
came back. Like there's
Yeah.
some crazy
She's
stuff.
the only point of light of goodness in Ul'dah anymore.
Right.
No.
Well,
I mean,
but she's
you
like
got Pippin.
she's trying to spread that light, right? Like
Yeah.
the arc where you go around and she's learning how to be a ruler herself before Raoban actually kind of decides
Mhm.
to step away. I loved that because I was like, you know what? I feel as though maybe she hasn't always embraced that. And to see her be like, I have to do better for my people was really neat. And I really liked
Mhm.
that.
Do you think maybe they might go into some lore bit about Silde? I actually just learned about it.
I hope so. I
I
would like
wish
to
they
learn more
would.
about that.
I feel
Yeah.
like the desert areas are just very underutilized in 14. Like there's some really cool areas in ARR that like I want that to be a dungeon. Or we get, you know, in Shadowbringers, like Amarang, we have like I want to go there as a dungeon. Never got it. We're done with the first now. We're never getting it. Like, come on. Like
I know. I would have much rather like I enjoyed the final boss and everything of the mines in the dungeon in Amarang, but I was like, why are we not in the Crystal City? Like, why
Right.
are we
Like,
not?
what do you
why aren't we in like the actual like ruin stuff? Why are we just like in this hole in the ground? Like
I mean, it's not
Alright.
good to go out there. The fact that we're out in the empty is like, all right, we were out here for a day or so. We need to get out of here before we get like.
But you know
Crystal
what?
cancer.
A 20-minute dungeon run, we got that. That's no problem.
Yeah. Well, like especially if you're going through the city that you know, like we had like the backdrop of the flood of
Yeah.
light and like that'd be so.
It would have
neat.
been beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please,
But
maybe
yeah.
later.
Missed opportunity. Maybe
I'm
maybe if we had
I'm reminded by the chat that Pippin is also in Ulda, so there's a little bit more
Okay.
light over there.
what if
Yeah,
6.0 is just the Nanamo expansion and like the new antagonist is going to be Raban's severed arm that just like gains awareness?
Stop. Okay.
No,
Fair
I'm gonna.
one.
You know
No?
what? Look, we entertain a lot of ideas here. We tinfoil hat, but I think this one I'm gonna have to shut down.
No, I think that was the first time you were just like, no. First,
No, no
first
for me.
word.
It could be a side
No.
quest. There could be a severed arm mount. There could be a minion.
No.
No.
Maybe
No.
like an
Severed
Addams Family
arm.
collaboration with Thing and the arm. Like
What if that severed arm also had an affinity for milk?
No.
how would an
No,
arm
this has
just
gone-
like?
no, terrible. This
No,
has gone
you
too
get to pour
far.
milk for you.
I'm going to aggressively change
There you
this
go.
immediately. Sildar was a great suggestion. Everything that followed after, very bad, no good. 2 thumbs down.
All I have to
Oh.
say.
Boy, that was a tangent.
What, Charles?
If you like Amarang, please look forward to it. Says the DM of your
Oh.
D&D.
Oh.
Ooh.
See, this is why we have to do our D&D campaign because Square wouldn't give us proper Amarang dungeons.
Yeah.
I love that Charles has already thought of these things. We're like, I wish we could go there. Well, you will. Oh.
Yeah. If it's what
This whole time, like
you
he's just
wanna
been like
do.
picking up subtle hints. He's like, "All right, we're gonna." Which I guess
I
right
feel
before we get into
loved.
the review, if you missed our anniversary stream this past Tuesday, we did announce Aetheryte Radio First Edition, which is going to be basically us playing Final Fantasy XIV D&D on the first. So that's something we're going to be doing in addition to, as well as a replacement for, you know, those Saturdays where there just isn't anything to talk about. So we're going to help to add a little bit more content. We're not losing anything by doing this. So we don't know when the first one will be, but we'll be making up our characters and stuff at some point in the future. So keep an eye out on the socials for that to see when that's
Congrats
gonna
again
be.
to everybody who won the time card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
a fun stream.
It was. We'll have to do that again sometime. It was a lot
Totally
of
great. It was
fun.
a lot of fun.
For some reason, when I thought you said you were doing the campaign on the 1st, I thought you were talking about the 1st on the 1st of September.
Oh, and the first.
That's fair. It's very
Mm.
close.
Too many
I mean,
similarities with words, and it's like the last
Mhm.
patch is like, oh, you'll have to go to the source. I'm like, okay, that's the lake now. You've trained me. I got this. Let's go. Oh, you mean? Oh,
The actual
Right.
source.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
other source,
oh,
the big source,
okay,
the one we
thanks.
came from. Okay, all right.
Our
I mean,
home.
to be fair though, the most clever possible way to organize all of this would be to do the first edition on the 1st.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
But you know,
I mean,
Glenn's like, you can bill me later for the ideas. that
Hey,
I
PayPal
have."
me. I'll email you my PayPal.
Give you those sick like 7-cent royalty checks for that one. All right, that's going to take us into the patch 5.3 review. We have thoughts on things. So
Oh.
first up, we broke this down into 5 categories, right? So if you haven't seen a review before, this is how it works. We always make it a nice, even, maximum possible score of 100, and then we break that down through several categories. So our categories for 5.3 are the MSQ and dungeon. Since the dungeons are now a part of the MSQ, we've combined them. We have the trial, even though yes, the trial is part of the MSQ. Usually in each patch we get a trial, so that's why that's kind of separated like that. We've got the raid. This patch will be the 24-man. Next time we do a review, it'll be for the last leg of Eden. We have Disciples of Land in Hand changes because there's been a lot of them in 5.x, and so it has its own category. And then last but certainly not least, Other, which is just literally everything else that we couldn't put into the other categories, which is hard. It's a very broad category, but that's how we've figured it out. So
this time it might change. Who knows? We
might change it. There's we're always looking to improve it and try and make things more fair. It's rough when there's a lot of stuff in the patch. But anyway, that's the system. So each of us will have a maximum of 4 points that we can commit to each category. Each category has a maximum of 20 points since there's 5 of us, and that's how math works. And so let's get into it. MSQ and Dungeon. Who would like to go first? Is there anybody with just a burning desire to just talk about it?
I have what I feel is probably a dissenting opinion, so I don't know if I should go first. No, you agree?
I mean, just get it out there.
We're
going to talk about it at some point.
I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to ever be able to talk to Zen again after today.
But no big deal, no pressure.
But like, no big deal, no pressure. Just do what you got to do.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do with your boy. So if that helps.
Okay, look, my boy, while very important and crucial, and the love of my life, and the most beautiful boy of all time. Okay, so the co-love of my life alongside Emmett Selk, my garbage man. Look, I love him, but he's not the whole of this story.
Yes.
He's not the whole of this story.
All right. I'll preface this by saying this is only my opinion, and sometimes I'm wrong. Yeah. I gave the story /MSQ/dungeon. I actually didn't remember the dungeon. Was 3 out of 4. This is mostly because I thought that they could have handled Elidibus a little bit better.
Yes.
I liked the trial, skipping the trial, but I liked how they eventually were like, all right, well, he wanted to be a good guy. He wanted to do these things and help out everybody, and he used this original Warrior of Light as a body at one point to sort of, handle these things and be like, guys, check it out. You can be good too. And that's cool and all. I really like the nostalgia woven in that they give us in this game. I do enjoy the fact that they put a bunch of other Final Fantasy stuff in that trial and around that part of the MSQ. But I felt like it really took away from Elidibus himself, because suddenly we were looking at this beautiful Amano man and not this guy, this hooded guy who we'd been wondering so much about for so long. And it kind of made sense because, on one hand, it kind of made sense because you get to the point where you realize that Elidibus has basically lost himself. So I get it. It makes sense. All he has is like this one point to drive towards. And the fact that they cover him up with a different skin is kind of fitting because he doesn't really have himself anymore. He might as well be this other guy. But what I really wanted to know was about him, how he got to be, big spoiler, the Heart of Zodiark, and what his actual goals were. So I felt like there was a big chunk of stuff about Elidibus that we did not learn that would have really improved upon the story. So that's that.
On the Elidibus note too. Yeah, I mean with all of that, I also feel like it's weird to say it felt rushed to completion, right? Because we've known Elidibus since ARR, right? We've had this arc, but then all of a sudden at 5.3 he's like, I swore an oath to somebody, I don't know, I'm gonna kill you. Like it felt
he seemed like so mysterious and organized. He's behind the scenes like pulling
and then
everyone's strings the whole time.
he's not.
And at the end he's just like, I don't even really know who I am, guys. I was just screwing with you. Don't worry about it.
It's interesting because it does make me wonder, right? Because we know primals, right? So primals in essence are an idea given form, or like a motivation given form, that through focused energy on that idea, it manifests and creates this entity that is kind of consumed by it, right? So we have all this interplay of things with Elidibus that, Zen, I actually do agree, because I do think that like it's very difficult to have an entire expansion that essentially focuses on Emmett Selk, who, even in this patch, had some additional stuff about his relationship with us and what he might have done for us that, like, in retrospect now is even more devastating because, like, obviously you would have wished that, like, that could have been the bridge we could have built with the Ascians. So it's tough shifting out of that long time that they've established Emmett Selk to now make room for Elidibus sort of being the, like, final Ascian and somebody that all of this stuff has been kind of revolving around in confrontation, but who we also thought might be different than a lot of the others for some reason. And then we find out that it's not necessarily because he is the one we will make peace with, it's because he is the one who was the heart of Zodiark. But because he was, we don't really know, and we can only assume that that process did change him. That if what he was focusing on and what was the anchoring point for Zodiark, which also provides an interesting insight into him as a primal, or that creature or that entity as a primal, if it was to help, to save, to, right? Because we know they were desperate, then who he was as a person has been consumed by that. And so, like, for me, the Warrior of Light fight and the primal and things, like you said, it is an illustration that he has lost himself, but it's also kind of an illustration of, like, this twisting of things, right? Where, like, to get what he wanted, it was taking these ideals of things and then, like, warping them so that other people would have to also accomplish what he was trying to do, in a sense, because he couldn't seem to figure out how to actually just, like, I don't know, get people on board, or, you know, talk to us or try to figure things out, like
the social boy.
Yeah.
And then
so,
right before, like, we lose Elidibus, we see a child form
yes.
of the ancients. And the same thing with when, you know, Izel and Tsukuyomi lost their lives, they were primals, they went back to, like, their human forms. What if Elidibus was actually a child when they became the I didn't even think about that until right now.
No, that's
the
my
best
read,
way that I can think to compare that is it's the Return of the Jedi Special Edition Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost method, right? Like, that's what it is. That's what it is, right? Where they swapped Hayden Christensen in. Like, it's that thing. Like, that was when he, that was his original self, and then he kind of transformed into Vader, or in this case, the Elidibus we came to know. And this is like his original self.
And I think that they told us this too. That's the thing. They told us this. Elidibus is a station, right?
Yeah.
The former Elidibus died. Something happened, and the convocation had to make someone Elidibus. And you see from Elidibus, or pre-Elidibus's eyes, like, oh, hey, we're going to raise you to Elidibus. You have to do this now. And the child goes, yeah, that's right. Just like my hero, Azim. Right? That he was.
This hurts me.
The child. This is why I love this patch. This is why I love Elidibus. I didn't before, right? And they kind of signpost that Elidibus is the reason for the whole history of the Warrior of Light. There was no Warrior of Light. There would be no Warrior of Light if Elidibus hadn't gone to each shard and tried to get them to rise up to destroy their own home, right? Like that. Are you kidding me? That's such an amazing story. He isn't, like, he didn't become the Warrior of Light. Elidibus is the reason for the Warrior of Light, right? He's the reason for the myth, and it goes, holy crap! Are you kidding me? That's insane.
That added on is I guess a layer that I kind of missed. And
I was under the impression that he just copied the legends, but
well,
no, I mean,
how
we
does
do.
the legend exist?
Yeah, so he does.
He's been perpetrating it, right?
He inspires it. And then
like,
the first guy, he was like, "You did exactly what I wanted. I'm in your body now."
Right.
And it does. Sorry, Aldino, that was so good. And it does give almost more context then as well to, like, that childlike state, which you can interpret so many different ways. Like, literally, he was a child, or it could also be this idea of, like, return to innocence, where it's almost like, you know, that innocent ideal, that innocent hope, that hero, that embodiment that he probably had going into this, right? Even when he became the Heart of Zodiark, even when he did all these things and pretended to be the Warrior of Light, there's this weird parody of it almost, because, like, he is trying to be the hero his people needs by, like, yes, bringing about the destruction of the world to save the people that were lost. And like that's something that I always loved about the theme with Emmett Selk as well. And I do agree that I would have liked to see a little bit more, like to be able to talk more about it actively. But I think they did a beautiful job with the little details in this patch. These little trains of thoughts, and like the fact that everything you were bringing up, you can see through that, where like maybe, yes, we don't necessarily think that the Warrior of Light is truly like, yeah, it feels like he's putting on a mask, he's doing something, but maybe that is what he literally always wanted to be to his people, and what he then carried on to try to bring them back, even as it was causing destruction, you know, even as he had gone awry, even as he'd been consumed by Zodiark.
I mean,
if we look at it, go ahead.
Oh,
no, go ahead.
He kept doing his plan. You know, like during during this patch, he sent out smaller Ascians to go cause trouble, to make people become Warriors of Light, to do more. And they also say that, you know, they were talking about us. You know, we do that solo trial, which was amazing, going through the story, right? He literally tells you that this is where we lost control of you. We were the reason why you were the Warrior of Light to begin with, and we lost control over you because we didn't know that you had this connection. We had done it before. We were going to do it again to this world, but you messed it up for us. Right?
Yeah.
So like he's the reason that we are the Warrior of Light too. He got in a little bit too far, and he didn't know that Heidelin kind of
this makes so much sense now.
Right, that's okay, and that's my takeaway. Now, that does not mean that's the takeaway. That's just how I felt, and that's why I love this story.
If he was a child, let's stick with child theory for now. It actually makes even more sense why, as he was sort of coming to the end and trying to remember himself, he couldn't. Because when you're a kid, you don't know yourself. You don't have a self yet.
Yeah.
So that
you kind of like latch onto what you
don't you haven't established who you are yet. So that's kind of cool, actually, if you think about it that way. I wanted to move in. I still have stuff to say about him as Q.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to move into what Charles was saying about the one trial where you're basically running through and killing all your antagonists and friends from all the previous expansions. I thought that visually this was beautiful. When you're in the Heavensward one, the Heavensward music is playing. It's snowing in Amarat. It's amazing. Conceptually, I thought it was kind of beating a dead horse. Like I got all these concepts you were trying to tell me already from Emmett Selk last time, buddy. Like calm down. I get it. You're not making an impression.
Yeah, and I think for me, like it's a recap. That's all it is. It's just a recap, and it feels a little unnecessary. But I think they're trying to. It was really cool. But I think what they're trying to do is to help kind of add that exclamation mark to what this story is supposed to be, right? It's okay, we go through a little bit, done, all this stuff, it's been leading to this. And then one of my bigger problems with it is after that we're like, okay, like what's the next big thing? Oh, there's still an Ascian.
Right.
Oh, right. Xenos. Oh, right. The Ascian is Asahi. Oh, right. Stormblood was a thing that existed. Like this thing that like has been drawing on tiresomely for so long is now coming back to the forefront. And I don't know if they're going to be able to make it as good as they did with 5.0. I'm really worried that 5.0 is going to be like the height of 14. I want to.
But even when I'm going, I don't really like this part. There's still so much other good stuff. I'm still 3 out of 4ing it, right? The other thing I wanted to go ahead.
Do you mind really fast? I actually wanted to weigh in a little bit on that sequence.
Yes.
Because while I agree that I think on one hand it is very much a recap, right? It is sort of saying, look at how far we've come, this road that we've walked, which, by the way, was an intentional quote of the lyric.
I was gonna say, I was like, nice.
It is. But I also think in a very different sense, if we look at the setting, right? So the setting is Amarat. And it's this idea that this is a place of memories, but it's not just a place of memories. It is a place that live. And that our memories are alive because we ourselves lived them. And that while certain things, ancient history, the ancient components of the world may seem beyond us, like you think about Pompeii, you think about these ruins where people have marveled because the graffiti is so human. and you realize that we were all people. And for me, that walk, the juxtaposition of walking through Amarant, which seems almost like a museum, and then literally walking through the memories and people that we have known and loved and played, and the years that we have played this game, created this really beautiful, visceral connection for me, where it seemed to me that Elidibus was almost saying, you have killed every Ascian you've met, but although you don't remember it, they once lived in your memories. And that those people that you knew in all of these expansions are no different than the people I am trying to save. That I remember them and you don't, and that's the only difference. So if I have tried to kill these people that you loved, it's because I don't know them. But like, and it creates this incredible, I just loved it, and I'm getting goosebumps again thinking about it, because it really is lovely. And I found myself going through that sequence like, do I have to kill them? Do I have to kill them? Which is the same thing that I felt with the Ascians and with Elidibus. I was like, can we just sort this out somehow?
Yeah.
Like, can we
Wait,
find a
wait,
way
disagree?
that we can deal with this and still move forward in the way we both live and in creating new memories and a new world? So I actually, it took me a bit to sort through that sequence, but I do think it was more than just a nostalgia run. I think there was a lot of really
for sure.
intentional stuff
Yeah.
in there.
No,
that
I
was
got
really
that stuff
cool.
from it. It's just I already got that stuff from an Emmett Selk. That was the point I was trying to
Yeah,
make.
like it was a
yes.
nice sequence, but it was just another section where they're like, "Hey, remember the Ascians were people too?" Like that's all,
So I
that's
think-
really like what it comes down to is like, you murdered my brothers. Yeah, we've had this discussion. I kind of feel
Yeah.
bad for you guys, but this is what the
And
story.
I wouldn't have minded so much if maybe they could have put a different spin on it. And obviously, if it affected you so much, then for some people, it absolutely did exactly what they wanted it to do.
Mhm.
I think
But
that
I
was
guess
the whole thing. Like
Yeah.
they, what I like about Square Enix is they do know how to tell a story, and they do tell it in different ways. And for me, like I'm also very much visual, and it, I like my body was, I had chills for like 5 minutes straight because like I put myself into my warrior darkness,
Mm.
and I was a warrior. I'm like, I have this axe, and I'm literally seeing Papalimo, Ida, Istola, Thanker, and also it hurt too because I
Yeah.
feel like people who started in Gridania were just
Yeah.
shafted because
Yeah, true.
so seeing them and then going through, then once Heaven's Word started, it seems silly because literally it's just pixels, but when I saw Izel come up, I was like, this is a friend who
Yeah.
we lost, and like
Mhm.
she gave her she gave her life to help us, and it was just like a different form. Because the thing is that when you think about it, yes, Emmett Silk did say this before, Alita's just saying, look, I don't know if you got it, so here's it again. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's a different person now, it's a different perspective, and I do believe it probably hit different people different ways, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that it hit me the way it hit me.
Yeah.
It
And
definitely
I
it
don't- yeah.
affected me. I
Yeah.
I loved the sequence. I honestly did love the sequence. It just thought that the point that they were trying to make through Elidibus there didn't land on me like they wanted.
I
Yeah.
agree. And I actually do think a lot of that for me personally had to do with the final fight at the end of it, where
Mm.
I felt like that walk was really impactful. And as I was getting closer and closer, I was like, oh my gosh, are we actually going to have some kind of breakthrough? Like, are we going to have a moment
Mm.
where maybe I have dialogue options with him, and like there's something that like I didn't know where it was leading. And I do have to admit that when it got to the end and he was like, I'm going to fight you now to see how strong you are, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I thought maybe oh no, I
See-
mean that's fine. but
It's
To me-
it's like they had this like this big narrative in mind, but then they're like they weren't sure what the stepping stones were to get there, because like some parts just felt a little odd to me, like that fight. It's just like you go through all those things, he's watching you fight, and he's like, now I'm gonna fight you myself, but also as Ardbert. Like, all
We
right.
also like assumed we didn't care. It was like, oh yeah, just keep slaughtering them like you do
Yeah.
all my brothers and sisters. Like just
And
keep
that-
like, and I'm like, I do care.
I know.
If there's
I would have loved to see that be an opportunity. And this is hard. We talked about it. How do you do diverging paths? How do you do choice in an MMO where the story, there's so many things you have to deal with, right?
Mm.
But this was one moment where I really found myself going, how incredibly clever would it have been if there was something, like if you refused to do it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but something happened. Like I just, oh, it felt so much like if it were a single player game, we would have an Undertale moment, you know, where it was like, oh, you killed them, well, you suck, and now we'll all die, I guess. Like,
right. If there is one thing that's really been kind of bugging me about games lately, it's the message of violence is bad, but then they force you to be violent. Right. They're telling they're you know, it's yeah. It's
You've
like
been trying
Last
to get a point
of
in
Us.
for like 5 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
This whole single player instance, I like, okay, first of all, it's a recap, obviously, but to me it was Elidibus going, I did this. I was watching. How does Elidibus know all of this? First of all, did you ever ask that? Like, he's been watching you this whole time. The Ascians have been watching you this whole time.
He's your mom.
And as you're going through it,
and you're like, his mom.
Right. Exactly, right? It's weird. But he's like, you did this. I know you did this. You know, you didn't want to do it, but you did it. You did that. You got stronger here. This is where you went off the rails from what we wanted you to do. And he's like going through it and trying to figure out how the hell did you get this strong, first of all? Right? And two, all right, you went through all that. Am I strong enough with this guy, right? With another Warrior of Light? I'm not. Cool, I need a new plan. And then he just disappears, right? It was him going, well, I know he'll play along because I have someone hostage, so let me see if I can actually kill him. I can't. Gonna have to rethink it. Like, to me, Elidibus is a robot, right? He has lost all meaning. What he needs to do is kill you. So he's doing whatever he can think of. Like, okay, well, let's go through these steps. All right, that won't work. Cool, then I'm just gonna have to summon everyone. And that's that point where he goes, okay, well, I have a new plan, right? And that, to me, I don't know, it was really interesting seeing him go through it robotically, like, okay, let me test this. All right, well, they didn't fall apart.
Then.
Yeah, exactly. It was just a whole bunch of if then. All right, I need a new solution, right?
I did like the solution he eventually came to.
Oh,
that was a very cool just concept, I guess. And ended up, we talked briefly about this last time, but ended up making the Hero's Gauntlet have so many meanings.
I guess we could talk about the Hero's Gauntlet now.
Like, it was a gauntlet of heroes. It was a gauntlet for you, the hero.
It's so cool. Like, is the Gauntlet of Heroes almost immediately after that? No, there's a little bit, right?
Yeah, not much, but there's a little bit. Yeah.
So they start showing up in Yulmore. You're like, what this is?
That was so cool.
So Zen, so we were obviously starting out with you. Did your 3 out of 4 rating?
Oh, I'm not.
Was it affected by the dungeon, or we should probably?
I mean, I honestly didn't really factor the dungeon in because I felt like it was sort of middle, maybe a little bit higher than middle, so it fell in line with the score I had anyway. The last thing that really helped to keep the score high for me, not that I didn't like actually love all those other things that I had critiques on, just the Scions in general, especially at the end, I felt like they had better characterization than ever.
Yes.
The animations that they have at the end and their little sequence where they're all back together and stuff. Friggin' Alize and Alvino's like fourth wall almost breaking, and Alize was so animated. They spent so much time actually putting like extra effort into that sequence. Her sinking down on her chair, her handing off the staff. That was one of my favorite things. Her handing off the staff to Graha and him having to like stumble to grab it because she's just not even looking. She's just like, here's your crap.
She's
gone. Gotta go.
Yeah.
I adored that cutscene, like paired with the incredible character work that they've done through Shadowbringers to give all the Scions real life. Like, it felt like the culmination, not to mention the little tour that you do of like all of their important locations. This particular expansion was the first time, and not to say that I haven't had affection for these characters, but I realized during that scene, during this expansion, they actually felt like friends. And that was a moment that I was kind of startled by, because I was like, oh, I've always liked them because I guess they were a part of our group, but it truly felt for me for the first time, like seeing all of the things that I had imagined, that they had written about, and that they had put in for the characters, I was like, oh my God, this is a family. These are our friends. These are people that I'm actually really excited to see grow and change. And like Oriange's little like,
yes. Fucking Jojo Oriange, what?
Oh my God, I laughed so hard I had to back away from my mic because I was just like roaring with laughter. And like everything that they did was so perfect. Graha's little ears, but he just
I loved when they're going, Y'shtola tosses Thancred the bag of shells. Right?
Yes.
It's such a subtle thing, and you're like, why is she throwing him? Oh, right, because Reen's not here to charge
not
the
here.
ammo for him anymore. And I love that. And I'm definitely Rook. I'm in the same boat where like I never really disliked the Scions. Like they were there, they were cool. Like they go in and out of like I like this one more, I like
so
this
much
one
more
more.
full
It feels
as characters
so
now.
it does. And holy crap, am I Team Alice now? Like just like
Yes!
hard. Like I loved
Yeah.
the characterization of her, especially at the end where her head's just on the table and she's just like, we have to wear our Stormblood clothes. That was such a terrible arc. Why can't we wear our new clothes from the good arc? Like, it was great. I loved it. I love the ending of that.
I did have favorites the whole time. Like nobody likes Thancred. I love Thancred. I've always loved Urianger.
I've always liked
Thancred. Because you have good taste.
Yeah.
All right. So and I've always loved Alizé. I was always Team Alizé over Alphinaud, always. And I kind of like that even though they seemed a little bit more 2D before, I was like, yeah, I think I like this guy and this guy and this guy. And now that they feel much more full to me,
they've slowly been.
I'm still with these ones over here, but now I like them all more.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
like thinking back to the acrylic stands. This is a little bit tangential, but not really. Because I was like, I like these, but I don't know if I like these characters enough to buy any of these acrylic stands. And now I'm like, I wish I'd gotten more of these, like any of these.
I am happy to say that I do have Alphinaud and Alizé, so I'm good.
It also,
But yeah,
it feels incredible. Like now seeing them that we're all back in the stores, like
Yes.
it makes it feel so much more like satisfying because I was genuinely scared that something might have gone
Oh,
wrong.
absolutely.
yes.
It's surprising almost that we did kind of get that happy ending. Right?
say that,
Everybody's
though.
here, Graha's back. Well, right. I mean, obviously we still have more to
Someone
go.
has pointed out to me. Someone has pointed out to me that if you look around for Reen right now, you can't find her.
It's because she's off getting ready for Eden to do more stupid shit.
You can't
Yeah.
you can't find her. She's not in
If they
she's
kill
not
off
interested.
anybody, it wouldn't surprise me if it was Reen, because she's like, oh yeah, I'll channel another primal, I got this, and then we have to like
Well,
actually
I'm
kill her.
not saying that something bad has happened to her, but you can't find her now. Maybe she's just, teenage hiding and crying and being like, boohoo, all my friends are gone. But
Yes.
Or
maybe there's something
she's
to it.
a teenager, just having a good time with Gaia.
Maybe.
I mean,
There you go.
just scalp.
Yeah.
Just gal palling.
Just
I
gal
ship them.
pals,
They're so
you know.
cute. I love them. When they
They're
get old, they
having
can fall
tea
off,
and
but I'm
crumpets
okay with
tonight.
that.
And
Yeah.
crumpets.
Yes.
I adore everybody. And one thing that I really wanted to note, because and when I get into my like recap of how this particular patch emotionally devastated and wrecked me
Yes.
and left me an empty shell that had felt every emotion I've ever felt in my existence. When we get more into that, I'll talk about it more. But one thing that I wanted to note that I thought was so incredible is that the writing and the writing in this particular patch was so tight. And one thing that I noticed that I really wanted to do a shout out for, and that we even saw in the expansion itself, and that I think created this incredibly visceral sense, is not only our own understanding of the characters, but also our understanding of how those characters relate to one another, which we haven't always seen beyond the obvious, like Thancred and Minfilia. But even then, a lot of people didn't know Thancred and Minfilia's relationship until we got into Shadowbringers, because a lot of the important stuff that happened in 1.0 was never touched upon if you didn't look outside for additional writings, the novels, those sorts of things, right? So for the entire expansion, they've been working on this. And one perfect example of these writing details that I think if you go back through non-play, you can see is even just like the transitions, right? So we kind of did a little loop through everybody's main story areas, which was brilliant. And I loved it because thank you. We just haven't always gotten that closure with all of the world we've touched on. And I loved it. So like we go around, but it's not just like, it's like, well, go help this person now because they rung me on the link pearl. The banter, the connecting dialogue about what this character said about me, and now you're over here, and well, I have a thought about that, and oh, did Urianger was fussing about his books, huh? Or like It was so well done. And it's those tiny writing details that you don't always even see that not only created a cohesive flow between the areas that you were going through, but also solidified how all those characters would interact and how they then relate to you. So that final scene, you get those interactions and they all make sense and they're beautiful. The sibling banter, the little tiny things, yes, charging the gun shell, like everything all clicks, and it's so great because it shows that there's a cohesive vision for how they are supposed to be, and that you then see as a way to also make the story make sense and flow and create emotional connection for you as a player. It's awesome. It was so good.
So my two favorite I guess character emotes. This is slightly random, but not really. It's definitely Alize throwing the staff at Graha first, and mysterious ancient doing the Emmett Selk wave as he walks away from the trial.
What did you guys?
You're like, who is that? It's him.
What did you think of that idea that Emmett Selk was helping us all along because he wanted to he knew what was gonna happen to Elidibus? I felt like it was that mention was just like a weird throwaway line. Like it just felt odd to me. I feel like with if that were true, I feel like Emmett would have actually said something earlier. With the way he was with us. I don't know. It feels the whole thing feels odd.
They gave us hints, and he actually even straight told us there was a point in his life where he was like, you know what, we have to give up on the stream. It's not working. I'm gonna try to live here. I'm gonna try and establish a life here. So we saw him go back and forth, trying to decide who he was, how he fit in the world, what's I guess side he was going to pick. And even if at times he covered it up with his bluster, there were definitely times where he wasn't sure of himself. So I feel like he was able to see from both sides and maybe be like, well, I mean, if shit starts to go down in a way that our original mission is not going to come through, it's got to go down this way, and I have to take care of my last remaining friend in this way.
Yeah, that's what I feel from it too, because Hythlodeus and the fact that Elidibus doesn't know who that is, right? Because you say, you have an option to pick. I think when you're talking the Crystarium to Ardbert, Elidibert, Litterbert, that's his name. And you can say, I am a friend of Hythlodeus or something like that, and they go, I don't know who that is, and it's like, then did they really
want to know
not
who
exist?
that is,
right? Did they never
want to
exist?
know.
Yeah, it's like,
wouldn't it be funny if it were him?
I took it as Elidibus just having these massive gaps, right?
Yeah,
he's driven by a goal, but he doesn't know. But at the same time, I will say Hythlodeus or Emmett Selk or whoever. I don't know if it really matters if they were two distinct people, because that idea of the friend is something that I think is really lovely. And I will admit that I was a little confused and lost a few times throughout that. Because we collect the stones and I got the stone and I was like, my garbage man is in here. And then I went, oh wait, no, it's not. I'm the one that's in there. It's me. I'm in there. And then I was really excited. And then we got to the cutscene with the Warrior of Light. And I was like, it was me. I'm Azem. I'm the Traveler. Oh my God, this is everything I hoped and dreamed. And then you have the Ancient who appears after the cutscene and he waves. And I was like, wait, it was Emmett Selk? Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Was he Traveler?
Yeah.
That was the same thing. I couldn't. I didn't get the whole it's Emmett Selk. I'm like, wait, that's his and it wasn't until I saw someone else's reaction like that's Emmett Selk. I'm like, that is his wave, but wasn't it? But wait, hold on. And then
so eventually, as I was past the emotional just reaction, I went, oh, okay, I see. Emmett was likely the friend who made the stone for us when he realized that we, Azem, or our original soul, was in danger of being lost forever. He preserved us in this stone. And then when he realized that we were that same person and probably went through a similar process like Elidibus, why is this one different? Oh my gosh, it is the fragment of this person I once knew. And, he even starts to kind of realize that as you go. And in that final fight, it's so tragic that he truly realizes who you are as you are killing him. And it's so awful, right? And especially when you think back on it. But the fact that he, I think, underneath this facade, underneath the weight of so many lifetimes and these struggles, still had so much compassion is a beautiful thing that even post-mortem we get to see about his character. The idea and this detail of like, my last friend, the last one of us, he is going to be so lost. So like I helped my friends, millennia and millennia ago to preserve them in a stone, I will now help this last friend that lives. And like I do love that. So my thought eventually was like, oh, that is our stone, but because he was the friend who preserved it, he may have left a fragment of himself obviously in his plan, and so on and so forth. Like, so that it is both him showing up, but also us, reclaiming our legacy as is them, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm getting misty over here. You need to calm down.
There's probably no answer to this, but I'm curious as to why our stone had the astrology sign for the sun.
Right.
Well, there's that whole thread, and even in game, Urianger addresses it. We have the Azam step, the sun god. We have Azema, the sun goddess, and we have us with our sun astro symbol. It's like, okay, there is a thread here. There's All right, so are you ready? Because here it is.
I was gonna say I was kind of wanting a tinfoil hat too, because I have a point too.
This is when the tinfoil hat comes out. No,
oh my gosh.
There is a thread there. I'm sure people were going, oh my gosh, I wonder what. And then in the actual game, Urianger is like, this is too cohesive to mean nothing.
Right.
So all those people who've been wondering where the 12 came from and if they have anything to do with the 14. It's a possibility, guys.
So
I'm not one of those people who deep dives, but I'm looking forward to seeing all your research. Oh, there it goes. I guess I was done.
Yeah.
And isn't one of the 12 twins or like brother and sister?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nald and Thal.
Nalthal.
Two twin brothers, I believe.
Yep.
It has made me wonder, and I mean, we have nothing, I think, truly other than some of these little tiny things, right? If I had my tin hat, I'd don it now. The scions and people having the echo, like all these different things, right? I have been wondering if at some point they were going to reveal that the scions were fragments of some of those, past the past council and all this stuff. So far we don't really have anything to super say that, or like say that one day we will all rise and almost become the 12 and all this, but it would be really interesting to see that, I think.
So my tinfoil hat moment, right? Especially now that we've gotten towards the end, we've known for a while now. After ARR started up, we're like, oh, okay. So all the names of the Ascians are tied to the Scion list from FF12, right? We have Fandaniel; he's on there now. So the question I pose is, which one is Tataru?
Tataru is Hythlodeus.
Because I don't know if you've seen this thread yet. At the end of Stormblood, Tataru makes us some clothes. It's that that dark traveler's garb. Our Ascian mask is on that.
Yeah,
I disagree.
Similarity. It is. I will say.
I think it is.
A little bit of a stretch.
It's similar.
It's too close. It's too close.
Me, the more compelling argument is the name of the set,
yes,
which is
100% what I was going to say.
Right.
The mask, I feel, looking like actually comparing the two, there's kind of a similar. It's a stretch for me.
But that's how it is with those Ascian glyphs. They're like close enough. That's nothing new. Like it's.
Well, then there's also the whole
just my opinion.
Tattoo.
A lot of people agree with you.
Like the 1.0 tattoo is. Like, again, we don't know what the full glyph of the traveler specifically would be, right? So these could all easily be components from it. And I do think that the shape is similar enough. And the name is so indicative that it really does feel like, yes, this is, related. You know what I mean? But of course, the 1.0 tattoo, also people are like, this has always looked like one of the Ascian, sort of masks. So the idea now that, yes, that's probably something that has to do with a Zem's glyph is also super cool. And God, it makes me more envious than ever that we can't get a similar tattoo if you weren't a 1.0 player. But yeah, I think there is definitely, there's foreshadowing there, whether or not they use that to build out a larger glyph later or what.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To me, the whole Scions thing and the 12, that's so weird. But now we know we're kind of Azam, right? That's there. What did Azam do? They were kind of a shepherd. They went and touched people's lives. They helped them. Are the Scions just they're not like the convocation members. Maybe they're shards of those original people that we had. You know what I mean? Like those people that we touched their lives and they still have some of that remaining.
Oh, that'd be
Maybe.
really sweet.
I mean, and that's why they always gravitate to you. You know, like
I feel
that could be, I don't know.
maybe I feel like
That makes my heart feel
could
good,
be
yeah.
a convenient stretch
Yeah, exactly.
a little bit too, right?
But like that's what they say when we're talking about the shard that Emmett left for us. Said this will bring the stars to you or something like that. That's what Azim does. Azim
Yes.
is the connector, right?
Yes. I
He
learned
went out and helped. You know.
Yeah. I learned from this patch that my character is a narcissist because I worship Azema the Warden. So I've been worshiping myself for like 10 years, right?
Yep.
Oh boy. I guess. Okay, Zen, was there anything specifically from your rating that you wanted to talk about more?
I think I got through everything. Yes. Go ahead.
Can I just say this real quick?
Yeah.
Is that why people always wanted the balance cards pre Shadowbringers?
Oh.
Oh, because of the sun.
Mhm.
Ooh.
I
That's a
love
good-
the layout in here. Yes.
So I rated this, if you couldn't tell by my impassioned discussion surrounding this, a 4 out of 4. I would have rated the story in this one a 5 out of 4 if that were possible. I would have gone full 10 out of 4 if that were possible. Because while I completely acknowledge a lot of the, yes, little things, right? There's definitely things. And for me, the one thing that might have threatened to knock this down would have been actually the Heroes Gauntlet, which we'll be talking about. Not because I didn't love the ideas in it. I thought there were some really cool ideas in it, but I was not a fan of the reused environments. And I kind of felt like I don't know, for like just getting one dungeon, again, it kind of felt like that we could have been in the Crystal City, but here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I liked the concepts of it, and I really loved that they used it coherently in the story.
Yes.
To, I think, really forward the narrative and to also build on some of those little NPCs that maybe we don't have time to go see in 100 cutscenes, but we can throw in this dungeon. Again, talking about just the skill of the storytelling in this patch, which for me is why I think it was so highly rated. We have not, in the time that I've played the game, and I'm saying this as somebody who adores the story of 14, who loves Final Fantasy games, who really thinks this is one of the strongest stories that we've gotten from an MMO in ages, right? Shadowbringers took all of that groundwork, and I truly believe, thanks to the leaders in the direction, as well as is Ishikawa, who headed up, who is just a gift and an incredible storyteller. I truly believe we somehow transcended already what was in this game, and it's because of these details. And this patch felt like the emotional arc of an expansion in a patch, which I cannot, like, how do you even execute that with the time that you have and the constraints that you have? It was stunning. And especially now with so much of what's happening in the world, and I risk getting very emotional about this, the messages were resounding. I mean, oh my God, some of those discussions about hope, even going to that moment with Elidibus, who has been a villain, who has revealed this twisted self, this lack of acknowledgement of everything, to those moments where he realized the people he cared about, and he's been trying so hard to get back to the happiness that he once had. And you hear that line about like, let's go to like the meadow. What a beautiful day. And I'm dying now. I'm dying now just talking about it. And the dialogue following some of the stuff after the Crystal X Heart gets frozen, and it's not even voiced, but while I was voicing it, I sobbed. I had to stop my recording because I was sobbing. Those lines about like him talking about hope and how it can be a weight, but at the same time, like when we are struggling the most is when we realize there's the most beauty in the world and the most things to be hopeful for. And I've lost it. Like it was beautifully told. These messages of understanding and compassion and hopefulness for the world, even when the world seems dark. And here I go again. I just think we needed to hear that now more than ever. And they did such a beautiful job of working it into the story and talking about the high note that the patch ends on. We were all so scared it was going to be so sad. But I think it just said something to me about the fact that a story doesn't always have to be sad to have meaning. And Shadowbringers was just an incredible example of that. There's tragedy, but there's also so much hope and light and beauty in it. And that's all I have to say, and I would have rated it a 10 out of 10, and none of the other stuff mattered to me because, I mean, honestly, it was so masterfully paced and told, and everybody had their dues, and every character that could have meant something to us was just reinforced with that meaning. And how you do that in the format of an MMO is something I've seen so many other companies struggle with, and they did it. And they brought home a patch that was a true finale to an expansion in a sense that I have never felt in this game before.
And that's why I am telling myself to be hopeful, right? Because again, hope, right? With the narrative, because we have this kind of this finale, and then it's like, okay, here's Xenos and another Ascian, and it's just like, oh, more of this. But because this is coming off of Shadowbringers, which was such a great story, I want to believe that it's not going to be terrible. It's hard. It's really hard. This idea of like, maybe with Shadowbringers we'll finally finish the Ascian stuff. We killed Elidibus. That's it. Oh, it's another Ascian. Like that was one of my big kind of
knockoff Ascian.
Right.
With least favorite antagonists. I'm not looking forward to this, but I am looking forward to hating them.
Right.
Kind of curious because when they showed the other Ascians, I forgot what the term was. Like the Unsundered, I think they said.
Yeah.
Unsundered, yeah.
That kind of makes me feel like they're going to go all out.
Exactly.
They're not going to do the whole, we're going to wait around. We're just going to like little bits and pieces. No, they're going to like bring in chaos.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm excited for, because when I played Stormblood, I was not a big fan of Xenos. Xenos really felt like I am just here to kill.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing like really like backing him more than just the desire of like power. But because we've had like, you know, Alamigo
The most dangerous game.
We've now had Alamigo resurrected. We now have Doma, like these two big nations, and like, you know, just the Eorzean alliance is like so much bigger now. What if we go and see about the Sharlians? We don't really know about that.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to see how they're going to bring chaos, because we know they can bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always weird.
The scariest part about that ending for me was seeing Xenos be calm.
Right.
The fact that he was sitting there and being calm, I was like, this is, what are you planning, you devil? What are you doing, you terrible,
it's always
man?
weird to hate on Xenos as much as I do, because going through Stormblood, through 4.0 specifically, the idea that like we are constantly beaten by him was, I thought, really cool. But then we get to the end, and then he merges with Shinryu, but that's when we're able to stop him. That was kind of odd to me. And then they're like, oh, but now he's back, but he's like Mind Xenos and Body Xenos, and it's weird, and they're dragging it on, and it's like, where are they going with this? And then we get this last cutscene with Van Daniel too, where he's like, oh, I took this body, and I'm rich, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, Xenos should be freaking loaded with gil.
Yeah, exactly.
Why is this even a thing that's being brought up? And then he like stabs the coin, and like, all right,
Yeah.
like I really don't know where this is going, and I am, I hope that they can make it great, but like I'm really on the fence of like, I don't know if this is gonna be good or not, just because it's these characters and these ideas of the Ascians that have been just going forever, and when we get to this fight with Elidibus, we're like, all right, that's it, we're done with this, let's move. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
So that's that. I think moving back into the dungeon a little bit, since we've been talking the MSQ to death, and I think this is what was said.
So good, we couldn't help it.
Right, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's some things that are questionable, right? And so again, right, three out of 4 for me for both of these. The dungeon, I think the music was odd, given the importance and the story around the dungeon. That was weird for me. But I think my biggest gripe with the dungeon is not the dungeon itself. It's that in a patch cycle where they've narrowed back the inclusion of multiple dungeons a patch, we get one dungeon per patch. And so to have our last dungeon on the first be just more of these areas that we've been experiencing for over the past year. Ugh. Like, no. Like, it's like, hey, look, we're in Ilmeg. Great. I've been running dailies here forever. Like, this is not that exciting to be all like, all right. I'm not going to say that it's like laziness with the design or anything like that. I think for what the dungeon was set to do, music aside, I thought it did really well. I think it worked really well. I think it worked better than like Gimlet Dark did right back in 4.5. But because we're restricted to one dungeon a patch, and because this dungeon was just basically us going through areas that we're already familiar with, and we're not like, yeah, maybe there's some new little structures here and there, but there's really not enough new to make it interesting from a location standpoint for me. And I think it's not the fault of the dungeon, it's the fault of the workload of the patches in this cycle.
But to add to that, the mobs throughout, we talked about this last time, are the same. It's just the same repeated mobs over and over again. They might get one more ability. The bosses I thought were really fun, as far as dungeon bosses go. But the trash mobs, like, why were they there?
Also, I don't know if you've seen this or not. Supposedly Hildebrand can pop up in the dungeon.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
he does at the end of Easter egg.
Why doesn't it have a 4 out of 4 for you then?
Right? Yeah, because it makes no sense whatsoever. They just put him there because people wanted Hildebrand, and
I
we're not getting Hildebrand
last time as well. We're in Amarang, and what's her face shows up, the fairy queen, king, and she's like, "Hey, why didn't you call me? I'm doing that bitchy thing.
I'll help you.
I'm gonna teleport you someplace else." And basically, Crystarium is here, you're here, and she takes you equidistantly north of where you were before.
You're like, oh, that would be great if you could take me to the Oh, we're at Ilmeg.
Right.
Thank you so much for your help.
Equidistant area. Thanks so much, you useless fairy bitch.
It's
it's tough because, again, like everybody's saying, I think the story gives enough context that I'm like, it's fine, whatever. But I do have to think about the fact that, like, if we look at All Amigo the city versus All Amigo the dungeon, one thing that I did really love was that we got to go into a part of All Amigo that we had not actually been in. You know, like we got to go up into the palace. And some of those rooms, like if you haven't actually looked at the like tile work on the floors and like all these little details, they're stunning. And I actually felt like, as far as environments went in that dungeon, I went, oh, hey, I can actually see a bit of the culture of All Amigo, the history, what maybe the city looked like before it was stripped down, or, you know, like whatever, that I really, really loved and enjoyed. Versus something like this, where I do think they could have taken us to different areas in those same areas to set the backdrop that maybe we just hadn't seen before, you know, or like we are in Ilmeg, but we are in a part of it that's not just literally, you know, basically the map with a few little added platforms. Because I do agree that that felt like the most underwhelming part of it for me. I was kind of like, I like what's happening. Necromancer is pretty wild, which we also haven't talked about, and everybody is hypothesizing its class. The mechanics were neat. I liked the boss designs. I even thought the mobs were kind of neat with their idea. Although, again, we see that kind of idea used better in the primal fight later, the trial, where, you know, it's part of the major mechanic, but it still does lead up to that and reinforce it. Ink Mage, by the way, I also just think is what they're referring to Scholar and Summoner as. They use the same abilities because people were like, maybe that's the new class, but I don't think so, having run it a few times now. But like the environment was something where I felt a little bit underwhelmed for a finale dungeon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I have the same problems with it, but I don't care. Right? The reason that I don't care is Elidibus summoning, and he even says, I don't need the actual body. I just need their want to save the world. And like that's why they're all the same thing, because they're all the same wants, you know, like this is their desires, and the only ones that were stronger were those giant ones, right? And it's like it depends on who he summoned, what they manifested as. And I just love that idea. I love that world building idea of he just summoned him. It doesn't matter, just
he doesn't care what happens, so he just needs that one part of him that'll go up against us and mess with us a little bit.
And give him worship to make his
because
he's a primal stronger, right? And it's just so insidious and so great that I was like, I don't even see the environment. Like, I don't care. What's the next thing that's going to happen, right? So that's and I know that that's not the best way to review a thing, but like it didn't even the story implications of the dungeon were so good that as long as it wasn't the Grand Cosmos again, I would have been okay with it.
You don't like brooms?
I mean, I just wouldn't have liked, the same dungeon again. Like, it didn't even matter what it was, honestly, to me, at that point in the story, because I was just so floored by the implications of it and what I was seeing happen that it's like, oh, I don't care.
I mean, like, right, and it's like I said, I think the reason I dislike the dungeon isn't necessarily the fault of the dungeon itself. It's just everything around the development. I really did like there was that part of the MSQ. Once you're done with the dungeon, because the whole time you're in these areas in the dungeon, it's that the star shower weather effect.
Yeah.
You have a moment where when you're out of there, all of the zones on the first have that weather effect.
Yes.
If you teleport around, and I thought that was really cool that they have that now, and I'm really curious now that they have this kind of like instant skybox tech, right, that they developed for Shadowbringers. I'm really curious if they play with that more in the future, because I think that was a really cool little thing, because chances are, like, once you're out of the dungeon, you're gonna just go right into the story. You're not gonna be like, oh, hey, hunts are up, like, you're gonna be so focused on it. But if you did like teleport to Amarang or any other zone, the star shower was going on there, and I thought that was a really
I actually
cool
scared
touch.
myself with that. I instead of moving on to the next part of the story, I was waiting for friends, I think, to do the trial that was going to come up shortly, or no, I don't remember. Either way, I teleported back to Kalusia to finish up the 24-man quest, and I like turned my camera and was like, "What? No, sky apocalypse!"
Yeah.
But
And
it was just a nice detail to have thrown in there to give the player that extra little,
Yeah.
That could potentially make for some really funny screenshots of things if that weather is still like if you like New Game Plus it and do that, have it active, but then like go and do other side quests.
Yeah.
As it's just like raining down.
I'm wishing I took a second to enjoy all that, because when I was in the MSQ, I was like, I need to know more. I need to
Yeah.
keep going. I need to keep going.
I didn't know it did it on every zone until you just told me that. Like, honestly, I just
Yeah.
immediately went in with
so I didn't do it on my own run, but when I was watching my wife play through it, I'm like, can you just do me a favor real quick and just like teleport to like Amarang or something? I just want to see something. And yeah, sure enough, it was up everywhere, which
So Glenn, what did you think of the dungeon?
Yeah, so going back to the dungeon, my initial response, I couldn't really take everything in, because I thought, you know what, Warrior just got some changes, let me try that. And it was the first time I tanked on my controller, so I was more freaking out because I missed a few mobs, and I was like, I was just like clicking through all the different mobs. I'm like, I need to get aggro because they're attacking our healer, and I was just making sure that I was bringing them to the spot. People were killing them, and I was staying alive. So it wasn't until I only noticed the real boss. I didn't get a chance to see like the map. But once I went on a DPS, I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it was like a nagging sensation. It was like, oh, I kind of wish it was different, but I really like I really enjoyed what it was. The whole we crashed, we're going through the whole area. It was kind of like, to me, it was more of, I know I'm leaving the first, and it's like another step for exploring everything in a different way, in a more like ground level, because like whole Mr. Switch was basically that, like, we got to see this village, and now I'm seeing all this area like scaled down as if I was standing there. So I enjoy that aspect a lot.
I like that you mentioned the crash, because as soon as you were like, use my airship, you'll get back so fast to the Crystarium, I'm like, no, we won't. We're going to crash immediately.
You To me, like, one thing that we don't talk about enough about this dungeon is everybody on the first went through it. That's not just the Warrior of Darkness and the Scions who know that shit got crazy.
Yeah,
everyone,
right.
every zone saw the starfall. What does that mean? Does that mean more people were awakened? Does that not?
Yes.
Well, even in the one cutscene before the dungeon, the one guy's like, my head, what's going on?
How many people? What's going to happen after that, right?
Oh my
One in two.
Are there, like, did killing Elidibus get rid of all of those that were summoned? Probably, maybe. I don't know. Are all the Ascians that he dumped onto here still
because
here? I don't know.
And and this is a thought that I hadn't really had come to mind first, but like, so you have Elidibus. He's like, I'm going to do the Star Shower, and it's going to make people think that they're Warriors of Light. But then also, I'm going to summon Warriors of Light, and the people that now think they're Warriors of Light are going to fight the Warriors of Light, which I'm trying to have stop the Warrior of Darkness, and that sounds counterproductive.
It's funny because it's funny because it made everyone in the world wish for salvation, and that's what made him stronger. Like, The Warriors of Light that he summoned wished for salvation because all they heard was, "There's darkness here, come here," basically is what he told, or somehow mind wave to them. And then everyone on the first is like, "We got to save the world." So it like was a double dipping.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
insidious and cool
Yeah,
that I was like, damn.
This left me with several huge questions, which you
Yes.
touched on, Aldino, which is, like you were saying, what happens when we have so many Warriors of Light? Because when we're just saying it, we're kind of using it as a stand-in for like heroes who want to do good things. But there is this whole other component to those who are awoken that we truly don't understand, right? Heidelin has been talking about, at least in what we've, sort of touched on with her weakness, like being weakened to the point where she got so quiet we couldn't hear her, the crystals. What exactly is her relationship with those she reaches out to who are awoken? Does she in some way temper them? Are we an exception because we have this fragment, this history that everybody is kind of noting makes us different? And Midgard Stormer even in the past steps in to intercept her influence on us when he takes the crystals, which is a whole other thing I haven't heard anybody talk about, but that always confused me. I was like, why are you taking my magic rocks? And he was like, you're gonna thank me for this later. I'm gonna see you. Don't worry about it. She's weird. You don't know the story. I don't want her hitting you up for like weird booty calls and stuff. So I'm just gonna take
I think it'd be cool to bring Midgard Stormer back.
Yeah. And then what about the Garlean like fake echo?
Yes.
What is that in comparison?
Like,
I
is
wanna know-
Fordola gonna have a bigger stance in the next expansion?
I hope so.
Hope so, because she's she's perfect for us to use as like a character and a linchpin into Garlean stuff if we do that, I also then wondered about the warriors that were summoned, because if we end up going to some of the other shards, what happened to these people who were not successfully pulled through?
The people who we popped. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing that happened to the Scions. They were pulled over the exact same way. So, like, when we popped these people, did they straight up die where they came from?
Right. Like,
and so you just have this crazy thing on all these other shards where all these heroes just died. Like,
gone.
Yeah.
Right.
You die on the first, you die in real life.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, there's a lot of questions around that, that I think they could really look at in future stuff, as well as I was curious because we talked about this earlier, the idea of, it is your job now to reunite the stars and all that stuff, which I felt like at the time was a very foreshadowy thing. And then we see Elidibus with his little toys, and then he gets merged into the Crystal Tower, and I was like, oh, so we're not going to use those stones to like bring back the ancients in a new and different way and like reunite their souls and then figure out in the future how we're going to make this all work, or if we even should bring back the true art of creation, or if people should be united. Like, there are so many questions that go into that, and I was like, do we still have those stones? Are they just chilling in the tower?
But because we have these questions, this stuff is going to come up again. When stuff like this happens, when they're like, we're going to throw eyeballs of Nidhogg into a chasm and that's taking care of it. No, it's not. They'll be back.
And then there's Xenos, who like is seeing visions of the past, which he thought were given to him by an asking, but maybe they aren't. And he also calls us his friend, which makes me wonder if he's a fragment of. So I think that although he's the most boring villain ever, and he doesn't even have his thick butt anymore. So I mean,
my God, how funny would it be if Xenos was Hythlodaeus?
I really want Xenos to be something ridiculous like Heidelin's heart.
Oh God.
That's such a thing that Essie would pull too, because they're like, you think this is good, but it's bad. You think this is bad, but it's good, and you think this is bad, but it's good, but it's bad.
That was the perfect.
Rook talking about all the stars and all that stuff. Made me just kind of have like an oh shit moment. One of the last bits of dialogue we get in this MSQ is like, whatever's coming up is the last tale of this star.
Yes, we didn't talk about that yet.
So does that mean the rejoining will be happening? Because what?
I mean, I feel like that was delivered from the perspective of character, right?
Yeah,
so that's just what they think.
Maybe. Yeah.
A lot of people are freaking out that this is the last expansion. I don't think so,
What
but
they said
No,
what they said was
that's
the next
not at
expansion-
all what it's gonna be. No.
They said the next expansion is the end of the Ascian story. That's what they said. So it's the end of the story of the original star. Now it's our story from that point on, is how I take it. So we're gonna get rid of all the Ascians.
does the rejoining happen and then
Right.
current star is now new star or
Right,
old star or
it only partially happens. We call it C, and we go there to kill hyper notorious monsters.
It's one of the, I don't know, the tinfoil hat moments I had when I didn't finish the story. When I got to like right before the trial, I was like, are they? I think it was right after the trial. I'm like, are they trying to say, because we've killed the last unsundered, right? Except for us, technically. We're not, but we are,
Nope,
but
yeah.
we could be, you know.
Partially re-unsundered.
Yeah. Is Xenos going to continue to, like, I don't know, try and get Zodiark to then fuse with him to do some weird stuff, right? Because he wants to be the strongest. Are we going to have to raise Ascians to fight Xenos? I would love that. Remember that we lived,
cool.
right?
It's weird.
Remember that we lived.
I don't know what his motivation is. Like, he's like,
Right.
oh, that guy is strong. I want to fight him. And he really doesn't give a crap about anything else. And after...
But that's
Shin-
actually where I get my Heidelin thing from. My Heidelin heart thing from, because
he's just like a
he's so single-minded, driven toward fighting the strongest thing, which at the time was Zodiark.
I could see that, Zen. I think that's fair. Like, there is some context given with his character, which is not well told and is only mentioned at the very end of Stormblood. I dislike how he was handled.
Yeah.
But some of his final cutscenes are some of the most fascinating and revealing from Stormblood with him. And I mean, as far as from like a character standpoint, we know that partially because as a child he was surrounded by Ascians who and also his own family who had been directed by them, so that he was essentially raised as a weapon more than he actually was a child. He was given very little worth even as a successor to the throne, and that he was constantly sent out as like a wild dog and experimented upon to basically go cow regions and to take people down. So like if we are looking at this just from a character standpoint, Xenos looking for someone that can actually rival his strength, that's the only meaningful connection he's ever had in his life, you know? So from a very mundane character standpoint, it's there. I don't think it's compellingly communicated about him. So it's one of those things where like, I like that idea. Now, Zed, I also like you bringing in this very different viewpoint of him, whether or not he is like the original heart of, or he becomes or something. I do think that's an interesting point. And obviously we are set up to be in opposition to him. But I am curious to see how they're going to make it pan out, because he does feel like he's in a weird, weak position right now. And I agree with everybody that like Fan Daniel, I was just sitting there like, okay, I guess do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Could
Maybe
you
it was
stop?
maybe it was to illustrate the new wave of Ascians are just crazy, chaotic hobo idiots. I don't know.
Yeah, but it just felt very like, after having so much nuance in Shadowbringers and compelling villains, it again felt like, why are we boiling it back down to like, I'm crazy, I'm gonna kill people. I was like, okay, buddy, I guess. Like,
yeah, I mean, I go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I hope that it just is indicative, as what you said, the unsundered are gone. So now all the Ascians who were created are like, well, what now? Like, I don't have anything to fight for.
So we're halfway through the show.
Oh,
we need to need to move on. But real quick, I think I just want to add to with talking about Xenos and stuff. I mean, technically, he's a blood relative of Emmett Selk, right?
Yeah, technically.
So I can't imagine he would be the heart of Heidelin, because that would mean he would have had to have been living for as long as Emmett Selk. And Emmett would have known
if the heart of Heidelin was split at some point.
Maybe.
Not sure if possible, being that Heidelin is
and it was like the whoever Emmett Selk got friendly with, because like how would he not? That's I don't know.
But then they recycle souls, so that's I don't know. It's a very, very odd theory, but that's just what I thought of. I thought it'd be funny.
Somehow ends up being tied to Heidelin. Yes, I could see that. Like whether or not he's the OG heart or whatever, I could see something there. We did not, however, before we move on from MSQ, get everybody's full ratings.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Yes.
Charles.
Mine is a 4. That's all I need to say. We've talked about it enough. It's a 4 out of
Mine's
4.
also a 4.
All right.
Yeah.
Brooks is a 20 out of 10 or 20 out of 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
347 out of 5.
347 out of 5.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. 3 for me. So that gives us a total here, 18 out of 20 for MSQ. So
Still good.
Ooh.
it's pretty good.
About that, yeah.
80%.
Yeah. Now that we're
We
hour
got
and a
an
half
A
into the show,
in
we
class.
have the first score in here. So that leads us into trial, and we did already talk a lot about the trial, I think, at least from a narrative point of view. So mechanic wise, I thought it was a really good balance. It was obviously some stuff we've seen before, right? We have like the fire and ice thing from X-Death. We have Bahamut's in there for some reason doing lane charges.
It's just to screw with Charles.
Yeah, basically.
It's like, let's just add Bahamut here because why the hell not?
Summoners on other worlds get to do whatever they want with him.
I thought it was a nice balance though, because it's you have a fight that's not super hard for veterans, but then challenging for casuals. And I think together with Duty Finder, I think you find that balance where it'll take you a few times. And I thought that was good. It wasn't as frustrating as I think like Shinryu was.
We're talking normal or extreme?
Normal.
Okay.
I mean, I included both in my sort of rating, but
Yeah. But I thought it was really well. And also I can't talk about the trial without saying that the To the Edge, this music track.
Oh goodness.
Holy shit. Yes.
I got the song. We had a drop. I got the first drop, and I was like, I'm really sorry, but I need this. Normally, I let other people take the songs, but not
I
this
think,
time.
and again, right? It's go back to like the MSQ thing where it's like, oh, we got the recap. Listening to the lyrics in this song really hammers down the humanity of the Asians, and it's a little hard to make out all the lyrics, but there is some really good stuff in that. Like, holy cow. If you can, like, just throw on some headphones, crank it up, and just try and listen to what's being said. It's insane. It's written so well. The fact that they had Jason Miller come back, who did the Shadowbringers theme, it's a great way to kind of cap off of the Shadowbringers story. It's such a great music track. Like I would almost like the trial itself was awesome. Going in and you get the party members be like, let's kill this Amano son of a, like, it's funny. It's so great. The design was really good. I mean, the 14 team has proven multiple times now that they're really good with bringing Amano's artwork into a 3D space.
Yes,
it's beautiful. I loved the design, and we were literally just talking prior to the patch about how much I don't remember what discussion it was, how much I loved the MF designs and how many of us really loved those classic Amano designs. And so I was like ecstatic when he shifted, and I was like, there it is.
And it is crazy too, because you get to the point, like, they kind of like give you that little flag right in the beginning of these MSQ sets. It's like, oh hey, the Warrior of Light. That's okay. That's cool. And then it's like actual Warrior Light, which is such a fantastic boss for us now. The Warrior of Darkness. It's such a huge like flip for us, and I thought that was really great. But yeah, for me, full score, 4 out of 4 for the trial. I thought it was amazing. Just everything about it was great.
Actually, going back to the lyrics, you can find on YouTube. Someone did post a video of the lyrics for that piece.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to go? Okay.
Oh no, Glenn?
I was just gonna see it. Yeah, Glenn wanted to go first.
So I gave the trial a 4. I really, really enjoyed it. When we first got into it, I actually didn't do a lot of X-Death. I think because I'm still new to the game. I started last year. So I think I started at 4.5, so I never got to do Extreme. And I did X-Death a few times when I went through the raid. So when I saw the fire, I'm like, wait, fire. I remember it was actually Blue Mage that taught me from one of the carnivals. I'm like, okay, don't move. And it was a lot of fun chaos with all the symbols above my head, the beauty of the stage, the music, the boss. And I don't know much about Final Fantasy 1, but when he shifted, I was like, wait, that's them. And there was a point, with a little button mashing where we just couldn't go any further. for the remote mode, and it happened 6 times.
Oh no.
We were patient, but we all figured out, I was like, I'm pretty sure we all need to do it. And no one was saying anything, so then I'm like, okay, well, I have a few hours until I have to go live. Is someone not I was that person. Like, is someone not getting it right? We finally got it right. But I enjoyed it so much. And then we went to the EX. Oh my god, the EX was it was easy to pick up, but it was still like difficult in the beginning, and just it was just beautiful. I really don't know what more else to say. Just the coloring, the lighting, everything was so visually like popping.
Yeah, and going back, it's still full scores for me. Though my one criticism is the active time event. Maybe just tone it down just a bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. It's a little aggressive, but that's not enough to take it down a point for me.
Yeah, just let the people who fail it die, and then we'll continue. That would be fine.
Or just have it be the same as every other button mash ATE. Yeah. Like it was really rough, and I get it. Like, it's, in the moment you're like, oh, like, but it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy.
I feel like I'm gonna be the Zen of this one.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna do the Zen of this queue. Here's the thing though. I loved it, so I can't, like, this is the thing.
I loved it, but
I knocked it down to 3 out of 4, and the main reason for that was, and I really just think it's more my own finickiness more than anything else. You know what I mean? Again, just like the dungeon, I think that the context of it is so solid. The storytelling is beautiful. It's brilliant. I loved everything. I loved the cussy, everything leading up to the moment is so good. Everybody comes in, they're your warriors of light. They help you. Like, I was losing my mind the whole time, and I loved it. But the things that kind of drove me a little bit crazy on a very personal level were the button mashing. Like, because the thing is, it's easy to say. Everybody just needs to hit buttons. And if you can't do that, oh my gosh, like, you don't even deserve to get through the trial. Like, and people, say that all the time. But I know so many players who have physical impairments or mobility issues that actually make it very difficult and frustrating for them to have to do those active time maneuvers. And part of me really wished they had done something different with the active time maneuver. Like, we have this cool system that allows you to be engaged with the moment, but why is every single one button mashing?
Yeah.
Like, can we do something different? Can there be a fun little matching game? I just think there's more that we could do that would optimize that active time maneuver. And like I told everybody last week, I actually thought initially that there was a fun subversion of it, because I was button mashing and the bar was going so fast, and I was like, oh my God, they're messing with me. And then it went all the way to 0. And I went, we were meant to fail this. Oh my gosh.
I thought that too.
And then I looked in my chat box, and my chat box said, we did.
Yeah. I think it would be really good for Square. And, I think next time we have a chance to talk with Yoshida-san, I think I would love to throw this out there for him. Is they do a really good job with accessibility for this game. They've done a lot of stuff with audio stuff, with visual stuff. Give us an option for active time event hold instead of mash. That's all they need to do. Done. A lot of other games do it, and these mechanics are it's like, it's not gonna hurt anything. Like, I don't think people are gonna be upset about it. Either tone this ATE down a lot and make it on par with all the other ones, or just add an option for hold.
Yeah, so like, that was a little critique. I think it's a little bit harsh having something that really has no mechanical actual skill check be something that can win an entire fight for you. So that was dumb. And also, I did find that it was especially frustrating because, like you were saying, you had to do that 6 times to get through it. And I'm like, that should not be what's holding up a party to clear this thing. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't be it.
It's as simple as making it like every other one, not even in speed, but if one person fails, that person is dead and everyone else is not.
Yes,
like even that.
I would have been more okay with that. So there was that. And then the other thing, again, kind of going back to one of my slight critiques of the dungeon, is we've been there before. Like, and it makes sense. It's the story. We went up the crystal tower. Like, of course he's up at the top of it. So I can't.
Why did we run up the crystal tower? We already have the teleportation crystals.
But I was just kind of like, again, I'm going, hey, especially because we are coming off of this big content delay. I was really looking forward to seeing something. And that's something that I always love about some of like the endgame trials. Like Shinryu, for example, I love that fight. It's brutal. It's ridiculous. You had to watch 3 bars, which was mind-blowing for some people, not everybody, but for some people. And the transition when he smashes it and you're doing the thing and then you end up on his back and then you fly into the platform and then everybody jumps off and the music is like, "Ah, ah, ah, ah," and you're like screaming in the distance. Like that to me, and in the extreme version, climbing over his tail and fighting him, like that is incredible.
Yes.
And it was so smart because it was, we're going to have this platform and we have one big boss, but how can we make that one big boss interesting and dynamic? So for me, I was a little bit like, I wish something different had happened where we were. Like, whether, whatever it was, even if the tower had assumed some new position we never knew that could be unlocked, or like the Crystal Exarch had made this thing rise up, or like just something that made it different, I think I would have been very excited about.
That's
all
fair.
of that aside, all of that critique aside, I really, really did love the fight. I loved the music. I loved the Amano design. I loved the callback to Final Fantasy I Warrior of Light. I loved the limit break mechanics.
Yes.
It was so cool seeing those limit break bars just go like ding, ding, ding. And I was going, oh my God, it's us. We're fighting us. And I love
And then you're like, wait a minute, he's got a 4th LB gauge? What the hell? Where's our 4th LB gauge, you cheater?
Yes. So all of that I thought was brilliant. I think and with the extreme version again, not really being super epic, I guess. Like it's cool and it's fun, but it's not like, oh my God. Like that, I think for me knocked it down to 3 out of 4. And honestly, I feel a little bit bad because I feel like some of the dungeon is also weighing in on this for me a little bit, just because they were the 2 additional pieces of sort of main content that we got. And so for both of them to reuse backgrounds and stuff, like I was kind of like,
It's such a weird thing, right? Because like these criticisms we have, valid criticism, but aren't necessarily of the content itself, right? Because like it's what they do really well. That's where it needed to be done. But yes, there's there's an extra delay. We wanted to see something different, but it's just it's a weird kind of angle that we're coming in on some of this stuff from. But yeah, I mean, still awesome. Like it's
The fight is more on par with like Tsukiyomi, because that's essentially what they were. They were the minstrel ballad of the .3, and Tsukiyomi wasn't as epic.
Right.
Nidhogg was the same way, but I feel like because there was just so much power in like the different forms that went on, and having to fight various, like the ad phase is very different. I guess that's where it's like their focus on more of, because like Hades was also really cool. Like I really enjoyed Hades because it matched Shinryu, but it's like kind of like that level in like the patch. It's
I
like
could see that. Tsukiyomi definitely hit me more in the feels, and I think this one was more meant to hit you in the heart.
yeah. I love the arena transition in Tsukiyomi though.
Yes.
That's true.
So pretty.
Indoctrinate
Also, we got to
with
beat
the
up Asahi, and I hate that guy.
He sucks so bad.
I'm so upset that he's back. I just like as soon as he like
Even
he's
in
like,
appearance.
I'm just like, oh, son of a like.
I felt all my
right.
face mouth would just get so tight when I saw his face. The smile, I'm like, oh, it's him. It's him.
My lips just like puckered as if I had just eaten something incredibly sour, and
It's like I really wish that he would have just pulled the hood down and it would have just been Raban's severed arm instead. Like it's.
I was so happy because I know this time we're going to get to kill him. That's why I was so happy. I'm like, oh yes, bring him back so he can be the punching bag. Because I didn't like Arbert being the punching bag. That hit me in the feels. This will not. Nope, bring him back. I'll step right on him. That's
what
fine.
if this is
like his sister before you?
So like I don't know what the term is, but like the levels of emotions where you start at like grief, hopelessness, and sadness, and a step above is anger. What if the next benches just always were angry?
That'd be great.
All the time.
I just want Stormblood's arc to be done.
I'll give my score for the trial, which is a 4. Right. I mean, yeah. The reason that I gave it a 4, because I agree, it's in a weird place. Like, it's the Crystal Tower, right? We've been there. It's not super epic, but what really got me was just the Warrior of Light. It's literally the monomyth. We're fighting Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, but 414. Like, that's why they showed us that story at the beginning. I really think, and it might just be me, and it might be tinfoil hat, that Elidibus or that station or whatever is the reason why we have that myth in the way that we do, and him using it against us is just him being
as the warrior of darkness, especially, right? We do such a
Exactly.
weird flip where we're the warrior of light. We come into like, oh no, just kidding, darkness now. Oh, we have to fight the warrior of light. Okay,
The very
Like,
like,
it was
the
cool.
idea of it.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And then the mechanics, specifically in EX, where he will hallowed ground your limit break.
Yes.
Dude, that's so cool. More of that in bosses. Give me more reactions from bosses. Like, you can literally bait him. You can start doing a limit break, and he'll be like, hallowed ground.
Just
You're
kidding.
Like,
Haha, you're hollowed. You have tank
gotcha.
and you can't interrupt it, but I can.
Exactly. Like, that's really cool. That meta mechanic that's like, it's in the narrative, it's in the gameplay, and he's using it. Like, holy crap. That's really cool. And then the last thing was another tinfoil hat thing is the Warriors of Light that he summons are the cast of 6. To me. So there's a paladin, right? Well, he's technically a paladin, but there's a Dark Knight, Cecil. There's a summoner. There's a ninja.
4?
Oh, 4.
4, sorry. Yeah, I said 6. I didn't mean 6. I mean 4, right? Now think about that. Look at them. They are the cast. Like, I was like, and the two, the one that got me was the White Mage and Black Mage, who are the twins.
Sense looking at them.
Param and Param. And I was like, wait, is this true? This can't be true.
I didn't see that. I did not note that when I played it.
Because I was like, there's got to be something in who he summons, right? Because they would do that. And I was like, well, then it must be from 1. Well, there's no summoner in 1.
Oh, with
right?
Edward the Bard.
Yeah, Edward the Bard. Edge the Ninja. Rydia the Summoner. Right? And I was like, is that true? I don't know. It might be tinfoil hat.
I'm gonna have to go and do this fight again, I think.
And then his limit break is called the Ultimate Crossover. Why is it called the Ultimate Crossover? Right? Like, why would you do this to us if it wasn't true? Tinfoil hat, sure.
That's not coincidental. There's no way that could be coincidental.
They always do that, right? They always give you these mechanics that are like the reason he does our limit breaks, you know? I don't know.
I do see in the chat Torquilra. Nope, Torquil rather dashing. Says Torquilra, the legendary. Says I've never wanted a specific glam so bad as the Warrior of Light fight. And I do have to agree with this. I love the new dungeon gear. Let me just put that out there. Yeah. That gear is what I've been hoping for from all the Shadowbringers. I adore it. Now, would I have loved it even more if that gear came from one of the Amaritine dungeons?
Yes.
And then for this dungeon, we got Warrior of Light glamours. Yes. Like, that would have been so good. I would have been so into it. I'm not, like, it's just so inconsequential. The new gear is really cool, but that would have been like, I think that little extra bit on the top that would have just been so good.
And so, and I have to wonder if maybe that was planned originally too, and then things just ended up getting like shuffled. It maybe like because that gear would have made way more sense coming out of a Niter, but who knows? So
for the trial, are you done, Charles?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. For the trial, I was also a Zanidra. Go figure. 3 out of 4 for me. It's partially because of the same problem I had with the MSQ with Elidibus, because this fight is the fight with Elidibus. I love the fact that we're doing this whole big old crossover thing. I think that concept is fun and very Final Fantasy 14 of them. But again, I thought it was cheapened because I want to fight Elidibus.
Right.
I love the music. What else? What brought it down? I guess the active time thing. I don't have much here to say that everybody hasn't already said. I thought that the EX fight was pretty straightforward overall. There were a couple things where you're like, how do I? Oh, okay, that makes complete sense. And it was a well put together fight, but it wasn't like a fun epic fight, and so that's why it's a 3 out of 4 for me. That's all. What was your score, Glenn? You told us your thing, but not your numbers.
I think. Oh, actually, I think I misread. So I actually gave it a 3, and I think the main reason was that although I love the fight, it kind of once you get it, it's not as fun anymore. Like the more the chaos is happening when you're learning stuff, and also I did it the second day, and of course everyone does it. at like 5 a.m. So I really couldn't get into any blind parties for EX without people literally joining and then saying, okay, so we're gonna set up here. This is where the waymark goes. I'm like, wait, but this is a blind party.
Yeah.
That happened a lot.
Yeah. So for the trial, it gives us a total of 17 out of 20. So there you go.
Still not bad.
Not bad. And that moves us into the raid, where we get our first
Charles,
two.
you want to go?
Our first two.
Yeah, we get our first two. Hi, I'm
Why?
the
Why
first
is
two.
that?
I don't care about this. Like, I don't care about this story. Like, I just don't, right? So when I'm thinking about the raid, and we're putting it out of 4, right? So I'm going, okay, the 4 things that they get a point or lose a point for in a raid, in a 24-man at least, we're talking. The story, right? The story around the raid. The set dressing, the mechanics, that sort of stuff, that's another point. Maybe, we could split that into 2. Then there's the gear, because it's gear, right? You have to get the gear. The story, I don't care. I really don't care. Like, to me, it's the first 24-man that feels like when we're done with it, and we won't care anymore.
I agree.
Because Crystal Tower, we thought maybe we'd never go back to it. But
the lasting repercussions of Crystal Tower. Oh my gosh! Like,
right, yeah, and the lasting repercussions of the Void Arc, right? That's us dealing with Void. That and then
even then, the last leg of World of Darkness, we essentially go to the 13th, and that stuff's coming back in the last leg of Eden. You know that it's going to be brought back.
And the Evilly stuff we're doing right now with Boja, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see how they're gonna get it back, and that really, to me, steals all the juice from the raid. Like, I'm like, okay, there's stuff going on and the mechanics are great. They are really great. And let me tell you, like, that hallway gauntlet, that's so much fun. I love when they bring in mechanics.
You can actually, I've seen people actually jump over the bullets from that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know. I've done it once.
Yeah.
I will probably only ever do it once. So that's
I'll keep that in mind.
But like, it just doesn't engage me, like, as a 24-man in the story. And I know it's because I haven't played Nier, because I know I will find those things, but you should make me excited for it in this game too. Like,
correct,
the stuff that we're gonna learn, I should be excited to be like, oh, it adds to my lore, and I could, okay, well, this means that. I just don't feel it, and I don't even care about the gear. Like, that's like, if I cared about the gear, I'd run it a bunch of times, but it feels a bit samey compared to like the first set.
1,000%.
Like, yeah. I don't even want the gear. So, like, that's 2 points off of it. So, what can I do? So yeah, I am the first 2. I'm sorry. I don't like this. I don't like this 24-man.
That's all right.
That's
It's good to have differing opinions.
Yes.
Yeah. So I gave it a 3, and man, I'm almost wondering if I should have dipped it down a little lower.
I was really
a lot of the mechanics are a lot of things that we've seen before, but just basically like Nier glamored a little bit, right? It's just more to fit in with the aesthetic of Nier. They nailed the aesthetic of Nier. I think that's great. I am still very not convinced that Nier is a thing that belongs in Final Fantasy XIV. It feels weird. I don't understand why it's here. And the music didn't help save it for me. Like, last time I was like, dude, that last track was great. This one's all right. Like, it wasn't as cool for me. And again, the gear totally, like, is it even different? Like, that's the thing. I look at it, I'm like, that looks like it's the same stuff. It's that, like, samey, right? It's like, okay, which makes me worry for the next one. But yeah, I was a 3 out of 4. I think 2 out of 4 is also very in line as well with those same kind of thoughts that I have. But
yeah, I went 3 out of 4 as well. And I'll be completely honest, I loved the raid itself this time. I had a blast. I thought the fights were super fun.
Yeah.
I really liked the unique and unusual mechanics they kind of threw in there. There were some things that I was like, oh, wait, hold on. And I loved actually seeing the Nier influence in those mechanics and in some of the weird stuff. Like, when we get to the end of it, there's a whole part of Nier Automata where you, like, walk through all these robots having sex, and then there's just, like, this is not a joke, this is for real, this is a real thing, I'm just describing what happens in Nier Automata. And then there are a whole bunch of them that get up and they make a big ball, and then a beautiful robot man comes out of it. But he's, like, born out of it, and he's very slimy. And so, like,
that's very important. All the slime is very important.
Yes.
incredibly slimy. And the thing is that, like, that in a nutshell, and the chat's bringing it up too, kind of embodies like Yoko Taro. He is an avant-garde storyteller. His mechanics and the way that he integrates gameplay and subverts the expectations of gameplay to tell a symbolic narrative that is grounded in themes of reality, but not always, is part of what makes him an incredible creator to watch, because it's that kind of creation that will push forward the boundaries of what we expect from the format of games, right? But does that always mean that it's accessible and it makes sense? No. Is that sometimes fun? Yes, because you get to the final boss and you're like, why are the mannequins making a giant meatball? And like, that's super fun to me. And I love it because we also see some of that, and obviously he's a Japanese creator, we see some of that in JRPGs. I've been playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake. Why in a pit fight did I have to fight an enormous robot haunted house? I don't know, but it's a boss, and it's a literal house that flies at me and attacks me. And that kind of bizarre symbolism is not exempt from JRPGs as a genre. So I like seeing it. However, and here's the but that made this a 3 out of 4. I agree with everybody that the story just does not work. Like, and I think some of that is because I don't truly understand why they said it where they said it. They needed to because of the context of us being on the first and all this stuff, but the dwarves do not serve as a good vehicle, in my opinion, for this narrative. Like, Allig would have been more interesting to me. Like, there are so many other things. Like, even the dragons who come from outer space, maybe they had some kind of weird connection to this. Like, but it's very weird to me having these like cute, funny dwarves that just want to do shticks and fun stuff and are so, absent from their duties of making a party. Like, it's very, very hard, I think, for them to make this narrative and this strangeness work with that context. And I did feel more compelled than I have in the previous section. I thought there were some interesting things with like the idea of a community pointing fingers at an individual. I thought that was an interesting theme. Like, there are a lot of interesting things there. Fear of progression, fear of the unknown, but I don't think it works. So the raid itself was fun, but like you said, Aldino, I do not see how the story can actually make it all something that is actually relevant long term, or that actually has an interesting weight in the world, or that feels cohesive with Final Fantasy XIV. It is weird and unfortunate. So that did kind of knock it down for me, as well as the fact that, like everybody said, there are actually a lot of really cool gear designs, both between Drakengard and Nier. Some really wild, interesting stuff that's not just Nier Automata based. And we did just get black jackets. And that's not to say that I'm not going to get the ones that I want and put them on my characters, because I do think they're fine and I like them. But I think there's so much more they could have done with the next, set of gear. And I do think we are running the risk of just being too samey and actually not really embodying the design and artistic sensibility of Nier as a franchise, or.
And I think that's the thing. It's, talking about like the haunted house, right? In 7, you're like, that's weird. And so then you get into like 14, you're like, oh, there's like robots in a crash space chase or something, but it doesn't work the same way because we know that's from Nier, and there is zero cohesion between the two. And I don't care. The gear, it's give me a reason why I should care. There's really nothing here. And the fact that it is on the first, when, before we're like, oh, it'd be nice to have a reason to go back to the source. I'm glad it's on the first, because I want to stay the hell away from our stuff on the source, because it makes no sense. It does not belong anywhere. And I was so on the fence with this when they announced it. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
no, you weren't. You were way over the fence on the, I hate this side.
I was like, it's like, I don't think this is going to be good. Right. I'm trying to put it a little nicer. I was right. This is not, it makes no sense to be here, and I'm glad that it's kind of staying away from the literal planet where our main narrative's now going to be taking place. Like, I'm so glad it's distanced.
So what did you think, Glenn?
So I actually initially, but now listen to everyone, I gave it a 4, but the reason why I gave it a 4 was because I was only thinking about like the raid itself, like the mechanics and how much fun I had. I didn't even think about the story because it actually was so like second thought.
Right.
Glenn's like, wait, there was a story? What?
I like seriously. I was like, oh, reviewing. Okay, yeah, I like the fight. 4 out of 4. There we go.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I've only played a little bit of Nier. I still have yet to like continue, but I have gone up to the point that Rook said about the slimy man come out of the ball, and so I understood that type of stuff. But I think during the story, I'm pretty sure people who play Nier understand why there was that like a betrayal with 2P, but I didn't get it. So
Yeah.
for people who haven't played it, it really just didn't make any sense. That was like, oh yeah, here's 2P at our mercy, just like shut off, and then we had to go and pick up this thing. Also, the dialogue option that said, "Oh yeah, the room full of like dead."
Oh yeah,
dead
the corpse room.
bodies."
That's a thing. I love that.
my-
That was funny. That was my.
That's
That was
my
like.
favorite
That was
thing.
great. Yeah.
So I was excited. I was like, "Oh yeah!" Like also just the dialogue options. This entire patch have been hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But so we save her, and then she betrays us, and then here she brings a whole bunch of others. Like, where have they been this whole time? And they just shoot down the entire village, and now we're just talking about, oh, are Kanag and Anag, are they like, should they be punished? And then there were like these weird different things. And I thought we actually had to make a choice, because I know there was like the whole choice, like, do you go with Anag or Kanag? And I thought, oh, is this going to continue? Did something change because I chose one of them? Am I going to choose one of them to be like banished from the village? What's going on? And so it felt like there was a lot of like material that just never went anywhere and didn't combine at all.
Yeah.
But that, and also the same with the gear. Like when I'm looking at the gear, I'm actually not even, I didn't, what was it? So when we did the first week, I forgot about the whole like one gear a week, because I'm so used to, the copy factory.
Yeah.
And so when I looked through them, I was like, I don't really care. I guess I'm just gonna get this one, because I was more thinking about getting eye level higher for my other jobs at that point, not even by looks.
Yeah.
But the raid itself, I really enjoyed it. I remember playing it as a tank, because I'm really into tanking right now. Playing as a tank and just freaking out on stream, and that was a lot of fun. And just the mechanics are really, really interesting, especially during the second boss, where like the walls, I didn't know they had to look at the walls and the letters determine if it was a liner. I still don't remember which one's which, but I know it's a thing. And I'm like, oh my god.
3
like,
is a circle and 1 is a line.
There we go. Thank you. And so the fact that now like you're not looking at the boss or the floor, you're looking at the wall.
Yeah. Can I also just take one little additional addendum onto the gear discussion? The hats don't work on Viera.
Oh, what? No way.
They don't, and I'm furious. Like,
What the-
no, it's okay, but
Jeez.
it's like it's so frustrating to me, because, like you were saying, Aldiano, when we're looking at this type of content, 24 mans, right? There are a handful of things that this content does. It introduces interesting new collaborations, possibly opens up future storytelling options. People will farm it to upgrade alt classes with, getting their gear caught up. But when you've done those things, what is the thing you do these 24 mans for? Glam! Like, you want the new outfits, you want the repeatable tokens, you want the drops from it. And the fact that there is an entire category of gear that my character can't wear that has been made when this race was already in the game.
How the
Just
actual F do you mess up this bad square? This is seriously, this is so stupid. So stupid. Like, okay, you can't go back and do all the gear. All right, maybe still not a great decision. I'll give it to you. You can't do all gear going forward. That's stupid. That is.
It is this weird persistent thing that, like, honestly does make me, and I liked running this fight. I had a lot of fun in this fight, even though I have critiques of the story. But it made me go like, oh, well.
At least those hats aren't that great. You can wear the straw hat. That one's real cute.
You can't wear the straw hat from the.
I was told you could.
No.
You can't even wear the new.
No, the festival hat does not work. You have to get a mod to be able to wear it on a Viera.
Oh, I was told it worked. My bad.
From the fair, it does not
Wait,
work.
Oh my
Frothgars
gosh.
Can wear it?
I don't know if Frothgars can wear it, but Viera can.
Oh man.
So
That'd be hilarious if one could wear it and the other one
Make.
couldn't. Oh my god. Like, what?
So yeah,
All right.
that's a weird thing that is irking me more and more as time goes on.
I didn't even know about that, and now I'm like so pissed at just like everything. Like I hate everything now. Oh my gosh.
It's very frustrating. And I know a lot of people who have stopped playing those races and actually like Fantasia recently, because they're like, I can't even wear a whole headpiece and I don't even have that many hair options. So like, why am I going to even I can't even use the hairstyles that I farm or have gotten or have bought on the mod
Yeah.
station on them. So it's like, what?
What
It's
is
like you
this?
have these races that just don't even have a third of the options or other, other gender that the other ones do. So it's very weird and very off-putting. And
It's
that's like another
terrible.
note about the new raid that was kind of like, oh well, that really
Yeah.
stinks because I thought the hats were the most diverse looking of all the pieces
Right.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
this particular.
Oh,
in this
oh, you want to
particular-
actually wear the hat? No. We can't do that.
Yeah. That's wow.
You want bunny ears and a hat?
That's
Can't do it.
ridiculous.
Although, don't get angry at me. All of the hats that they've modified to fit Makote ears, so the Makote ears come out, look stupid.
Some of them are cute. I like the little pockets. They
But
make a
at
cute
least
little-
you can wear them.
Yeah.
That's true. So for me, I went the Glenn route, 4 out of 4, because while I don't know the near story, I don't really care about it
Mhm.
either. It didn't affect how fun I thought the raid was.
That's
I
fair.
legitimately enjoyed all of the fights except for the last one. I thought they were all just really fun to do. I think that this particular raid has the best trash mob set in the
Yes.
game so far.
Yes,
That
yes.
hallway is fun. It just is. The hallway with the
So
lasers.
good.
Mhm.
It's just fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed actually doing the raid. I think I had to do it 6 times to write the guide, and I enjoyed every single time. I think I said similarly last one with
think so,
Copy
yeah.
Factory, but not as much. And the thing that I also really liked about this one is that I felt the mechanics were more cohesive. There were definitely mechanics in Copied Factory that are like, and we're going to tack this on, and there's nothing to tell you it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. If you happen to be standing in the wrong place, screw you. But in this one, the fights, everything was much more organized, and I really enjoyed them. I do agree that the gear is very samey. I said it from the
Yeah.
update to the preview site we got. I thought that it all looked very samey, and some people disagreed. That's fine. It's a lot of black jackets with shiny buttons and some silver trimming. Is a
Mhm.
lot of what it is.
And in all
Um,
fairness, that's what some people want.
they still look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the pieces are still look good, but all of the pieces still look good, but they could be part of the previous set. You could take any of the job gear and swap them with the old one, and nobody would bat an eyelash because the aesthetic for those sets is the same, which is
Yeah.
fine. People enjoy that. I wanted the healer jacket, and that's pretty much it. I'm not really into any of the other pieces. Somebody in chat mentioned the boots are good. The boots are good. They're much better, in my opinion, than the previous boots because the heels look realistic. Small tangent. I went in with a healer buddy, and we both wanted the body, and one of the runs, and it dropped twice. So
Nice.
I'm like, is Square Enix listening? Do they realize that this is the best looking piece? Because these pieces are raining from the sky, and that never happens for me.
Yeah. You know,
I enjoyed going through with people who do know Nier, because the little tidbits that they got, that they were like, oh, this is like blah, was really like fun to, I guess, like tag along from their experience.
I had that
They're
in
like,
in
"Ah."
party chat going through. Yeah. People were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is like that one thing," and I'm just like, I have no idea what any of this is, and
Yeah, but
I don't
seeing
know
other
why
people
I
be
need to care.
excited about stuff. was
Right,
fun.
right, and
Good
that's
for
the thing.
you.
But
Yeah.
but from the point of a collab, like, it needs to make sense, even if you haven't done the other thing. Like Yokai Watch, I've never played Yokai Watch, but it's like they're like, oh yeah, they're whatever and things, and yeah, all right, that's still weird. I know it's a collab, but at least it kind of makes at least a sliver of sense. It's just I don't know, but
I didn't find the last fight as fun. It did
Mhm.
still make sense, but it was kind of like we're slapping this stuff together, just like they're slapping the bodies together.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the grossest orb in the game,
Mhm.
and every time I notice an extra detail from the Compound 2P, I'm like, I both love and hate this. Like her feathers from the sleeves, all of the feathers are legs, so her
Mhm.
sleeves are all legs, and I think that's hilarious. That one part is very uniform, and then like you get down to her hands and it's like a leg and an
Right,
arm and
like-
a couple of bodies, and I'm like, that's disgusting and also kind of hilarious but gross.
It opens the door up to
her
some really
shoes.
wild cosplay at the next fan fest.
Oh no,
yeah.
her shoes.
Somebody just
though.
like covered in doll parts.
Ugh. Her. Okay, so the heels of her shoes are 2 robots with their butts stuck out. Their legs. They're awful.
I think I would like to be the robot that's one of the bangs. That would be my preference.
Oh yeah.
Yes. If you had to pick.
I
Yeah.
would want to be a leg. I like a feathery leg.
Yeah, I will say that we talk about the fights being fun and things, right? I do really like some of the stuff they did to sort of shake things up in this one, right? So the idea that we have the 3 bosses, but there's something a little bit different with it. Like your positioning matters, the fact they can't be together, all these different things. Like I liked that they kind of subverted some of that. And then the fact that, I mean, there is a trash mob portion of this raid that people are like, this is the best ad phase trash mob that has ever been in the game, I think really does say something to the possibilities of what we could be doing with some of those like additional trash mob kind of mechanics. I mean, even like in the Alexander raids, we saw a little bit of playing with that. Like, we're going to have mechas, we're going to do this one's going to do that, these ones will spawn. Like, there was more of that sort of playing with it, which I really liked. And I've honestly missed that in some of our raids because I love the big bosses, but it's nice to like have things that are a little bit different, make the journey different, and then that also give you like a new challenge to kind of overcome. And the fact that like these mechanics do have that kind of bullet hell feel to them was so I was like, this is neat. What if we had an actual raid where like people had to stand and angle the things, then you had to run and you had to go up and avoid that? Like, that would be really fun to me. It would be a nightmare for people with ping. Like ping issues, but everybody else has so much fun.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it's also fun to laugh at your friend who has ping issues.
yes, we laugh at
They're
that.
like, no.
So I really liked that, and I think that was a real like victory from this collaboration, if nothing else. There will be some new things to get for sure in the game, I think, because they have an idea of how they could re-envision it.
I definitely like agree with everything everybody said that they didn't like, but I guess it still didn't take away from it for me. And I don't know if that's good or bad. If I just was like, non-issue, get out of here. But yeah, 4 out of 4.
I mean, it's much the same about like the story. If it's a story thing in this patch, I'm giving it as high as I can give it because it hit me personally.
Unless it's the raid story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that I don't count that technically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, what did we give it?
16 out of 20.
Yeah. We're like slowly one step down.
You're right.
Can we take it back up?
We'll find out. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Disciples of Land and Hand changes. So this is a little rough, just because Ishgard stuff is right. Ishgard stuff is 5.31. Which and we don't know what's going to come with that. I don't think that they said in the patch notes. I don't think there was another wave of quests after the completion for this one, like there was for the last patch. But what we do have is a new custom deliveries NPC, which kind of helps to expand on the stuff going on with the story in the firmament, which was I think that's really cool. We also have the Dwarf tribe quests, and it's we've talked about this before. With how kind of heavy-handed they've been with the crafting and gathering stuff with 5.x. That having been said, like I've been really enjoying the Dwarf quests. They're really just ridiculous.
They're
like
cute.
Like the first one's like, okay, like we need to work on this thing. Oh, but first we need to make a brewery because we need ale.
Yeah.
Also, it makes ethanol, so problem solved with our fuel dilemma. Like it's really crazy, and it's gonna end up with us getting a tank. Like, sign me up, dude. Like, I'd love to drive a tank around. That's we haven't really had a tank before, so I think that's really cool. Well,
you should have a tank in every party.
Oh, hi.
Sorry.
The other stuff, like the trial synthesis, the item lookup stuff. It's weird because they've been adding lots of quality of life stuff for crafting for a lot of this expansion, and I can't say like what else I would want, but then they find something else to make even better. And so for me, I gave this a 4. I think they're doing a really good job. It's one of those things, right? It's like Nier, like some people aren't crazy about it. Some people absolutely loathe it. Some people are like, I don't know, the raid was fun, like whatever, I don't care. And so you have other people that just aren't doing, crafting and gathering content. For them, they couldn't care less about this, and I get that. But for me, I think it's a fun little side quest. It's giving another way to level up stuff. And I, for the people that do this content, I think it's great that they keep finding things to improve on.
For me, this was a 3 out of 4. I am down. I'm down with the dwarves. Let's hang out and put shit together and drink and lolly ho at each other all day.
Alcohol and driving tanks. What could go wrong?
Weird greetings. Just being badasses, being crazy. I'm here for it. It's just adorable overall. The little extra trial-y stuff for crafting is cool. But really made it a 3 out of 4 for me instead of a 4 out of 4 is that I don't need it. Right. It's really, really late. I feel like it's late.
Yeah.
For people who are just getting into the game or take crafting a little slower, which is fine. I'm not against it. There is definitely a huge audience for these dailies, but for me personally, it's okay, well, I'm gonna do these once a day, maybe twice a day if it's a turnover, and then I'm gonna log back out of the game now.
Yeah.
Because it's not useful to me. The only joy I get out of it is how awesome the dwarves are, which is a 3 out of 4 amount of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to note too, right? Talking about how some people just don't do this content. The people that do this content, you have to divide up into 2 groups. There's the crazy hardcore people. As soon as they get through MSQ and have their 1 battle class to cap, they jump into crafting and gathering, right? They will not benefit from the XP portions of this content. Which is right. It's 5.3. It's a little late for things to help level. And we've talked about that before with, even 5.2, right? It's this feels like it's coming a little late. But then you have that second group that will do the content, but on a much more casual schedule, like me. I've been, steadily, when Kitari and the ocean fishing came up, I did my gatherers. I finished taking my gatherers up. Now that this is here, obviously I'm going to go and do more crafting. Then you have Ishgard Restoration, which you can do both for. And it's nice casual content where it's I want to log in, but I don't want to deal, I don't want to do just dungeons and whatever. I want to do something a little different. I'll, Netflix and Diadem or something, right? It's just, I think it's a nice other, alternative option, for people to do.
I actually, that's not go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say that Fusion. Every time you mention the people who don't like the crafting and gathering, I'm over here that's me. I've tried. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. Yeah. I've tried to get into crafting and gathering. I really enjoy crafting and gathering in other games. It is not what I love in 14. And I'm just I don't have to pretend anymore. I can just be myself. I can be real about this. Because for a long time I was like, I just haven't had time. But what I really meant was, I did, but I did not like it so much. So I'm just going to be real with everybody. There's a purpose for it. I think some of the beast tribes and things around it are great. But personally, I have not always loved the time to effort ratio of the crafting and gathering in 14. And now, obviously, they are trying to come up with some new content that gives you more return for that time and effort that you put into it and makes things like leveling easier for people. Because for a while, oh my gosh, yeah, it would take you a million years to level up each of those if you didn't know all the tricks or you didn't have access to 1,000 supplies or you weren't bumming off of a friend or it was just a little bit arduous. So I'm really, really glad that they are developing it and that we've seen some attention, especially for people who want to do it in endgame with Ishgard and stuff like that, where they're, supposedly going to be developing that into some sort of end game for crafters and gatherers. I love that. I support it. However, I gave crafting and gathering a 2 out of 4 this time because I'm sick of, I'm tired of it. Right. And I hate saying this. Normally, I try to be very biased. Or sorry, I try to be very unbiased.
I think you got biased very well that point.
Wow. All right.
I try to be very unbiased, but as somebody who loves combat content, and or just
Mhm.
I like casual content too. I'm not always like a savage end game raider. Like I do that, but I really do like a variety of different things. I love dungeons. I love stuff like that. I really feel like I am hurting right now for some stuff to do. And like, especially now that they've, made it one dungeon and things like that. I was
Yeah.
not excited about the dwarves. And I actually didn't even put the dwarves into the craft and gathering category here. I put them into other, which I feel kind of bad about. I should have probably mushed them. But like for me, I was just like you were saying, we have so many other tools right now for crafting and gathering. I feel like, we have a lot of stuff and we've got more Ishgard coming up. And I love the little dragon. He's so cute. But boy, do I want something else to do right now. Like, I would have even loved being able to go through another beast tribe that wasn't crafting and gathering because we just finished up. Like, it's like Katari just happened. So for me, I was kind of sitting here going, I don't really know if we needed this with this patch. I think it's cute. I think it's fun. I'm glad that we're getting more with it. But I really, as a player that I'm focused more on other content, really am feeling that drought right now in a way that I think just
Mhm.
hasn't been really well balanced in this patch cycle. Like they needed to do a lot of legwork with it, but it's really been rough waiting for Boja. Like
Yeah.
It's coming. Hold on.
I know. I feel at this point my 2 out of 4 was really biased. And at the same time, I felt like I wanted to do that because I do think, speaking from a player perspective that doesn't necessarily love that content, I have felt like that balance has been a little bit skewed for me as they've tried to, bring it into balance, to be fair. But I would just I'd prefer something else to really kind of dig into right now.
So what I was gonna say was, I feel like I'm sort of like in between the two categories that Fusion listed, because I leveled all of my battle crafts first, and then did all of my crafter crafts.
Your
Um,
battle crafts?
yeah, battle jobs. Sorry.
I was like,
Listen, being a warrior is a craft. Okay.
look, the amount of damage I can do with my sewing needle is unparalleled.
I mean, we've
So-
seen what Hildebrand's father can do with a
Yeah.
with the goldsmith hammer.
Thank
There
you,
go.
Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. Anyway, I leveled all of my battle jabs first, and then went into crafters. And I also want to say, Rook, don't feel bad about that. The only reason I level my crafters is so that I can make furniture and not have to bother friends. If I need a piece of gear made,
That's
I'm
fair.
like, I've gathered all the materials because I happen to have the list of stuff because all of my crafters are leveled, but I don't want to make it because I'm going to screw it up. Can you do it for me, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's not. I gave it a 3, and it's only because of the dwarves. Really, honestly,
Yeah.
it would have been a 2 otherwise. Because, as I say in there, crafting is becoming something that I may want to engage with when I can find the time. Like that's
Maybe.
where it is right now. Like
Mhm.
it's finally becoming something that I want to find time to do. It's not quite there yet. It's getting there. Like, because it's not a modern MMO when you think about crafting, right? It technically isn't. I mean, it's kind of postmodern in some ways in that crafting is a mini game. Gathering is a mini game. Like you go to WoW and you're like, I just press button and it shows up. Cool.
Yeah.
So I like that part of it, but like all the quality of life, we needed all of it. Because like starting in 2.0, I didn't even start in 1.0. I didn't even try and craft for the 3 weeks that I played 1.0. But starting in 2.0, I was like, there's no way. I don't like this at all. Like, why can't I do anything? Why isn't there a way to test out this? Why isn't there a way to know if I can
You
craft this?
mentioned 1.0, and all I can
Yeah.
think of is Fent and all of the like there, the grade number materia junk, what is it
Yeah.
called? Dark matter to fix
Yes.
gear. Each different kind of gear, like leathercraft, clothcraft, had its
Yeah.
own of that. Fent
Yeah.
was the cloth one, and you had to have each and every different kind to fix each and every
I will
different-
never forget
It was bad.
the
Yeah.
Christmas set that came out in 1.0, and you needed Dormouse for it to repair it. And everyone's like, where the hell do you even like get this from? Like, oh my gosh.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
to me, I was gonna give it a 2, and then I thought about the dwarves, and I was like, okay, that's good because it's like average. They're just bringing it along. Ishgard will show us more, and I'm really sad that it's not in here. I didn't remove a point because of it. I wanted to say that, but
Yeah.
it's just underwhelming to me, honestly. And
I
I don't know.
I'll be curious to see what 6.x has, because I feel like with 5.x, may or may not be related to the way they decided to do Ishgard. But they've really been going through and just, I mean, we had that one patch where they gutted all the stupid actions for gatherers and crafters. Like, nobody uses this, we don't need them. They simplified it as best they could. They're really trying to kind of revamp this to make it, I think, more approachable. And maybe this just happens to be the expansion for it, and then once we move into 6.x, maybe we'll get more dailies based on combat or something.
So for me, I gave Crafting Gathering a 3. I haven't really touched most of it besides the Beast Tribes. My favorite dwarf quest is when you have to go to that one dwarf that's like in front of a bunch of people and gotta psych them up, and then he does the dance. I think that's my favorite one.
It's the best way to promote tanks is to dance for people.
Exactly. And so
Obviously.
I'm like towards the casual side. I actually kind of like crafting. When I first got into crafting, I liked the fact that it was like this like little mini game. I was like, oh, there's spells for each one of them. Because I think I played WoW for a little bit. I don't even remember what the crafting was like there. And you can only be like 2. And here I'm like, you can be them all. And for some reason, I forgot. I think I saw someone streaming and they were just like, relaxing down. I'm like, oh, this is something I can do, like, just to chill, whatever. And I chose culinary as my first one. And even though all you have was this white ball and you're like flipping this frying pan, I went into this whole like fantasy, like, ooh, I'm making some like flan right now. I'm making a cake. And it was just
the actual animation is just him with the frying pan going like this, and in his head it's like Iron Chef, where he's like running around chopping all the things. And
and I'm like, oh, it's when I heard the sizzle, I'm like, oh, I love this. So it was like the small little things for me. I haven't touched it recently because when I went through Diadem and Ishgard, I went ham because I'm like, I want to get them all to 80, and I burned out.
yeah.
And I have one last armorer, how I say. Armorer is the last crafter I need to get to 80. So it's been good leveling it with the beast tribes, but I'm excited. I want to actually like be able to get more into it and like do like little crafting here and there because in my raid group we have this one person who he calls it his Walmart. He doesn't charge us; he just gives it to us, and I want to be like that because he looks like he has a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to when I stop being burned out and get back into it, and also the trial synthesis. I can't wait because then I could be like, oh, I need help, or I can do this.
Right.
So I gave it a 3 just because I haven't touched it. I also haven't done the custom deliveries because I have a lot of scripts that I do not know what to do with them because I've been too lazy to find out what is the best thing to spend them on. So that's where I am.
Books if you
it's a
don't
lot
have
of
them,
options.
songs if you don't have them. I think it's really kind of appropriate that your last one to level up is armor, and you're supposed to be making tanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Funny enough, armor is always the first one that I level. So go figure. All right. So that puts its score at 15 out of 20. So it's just going down.
Yeah,
That's really.
I think other's gonna go back up. It's gotta, right?
Yeah. So moving on to other, and again, it's such a broad category.
Yeah.
I think that probably one of the big things that is going to factor in here is the Sorrow Werlyt quests, which is a bulk of I think of what I probably have in my written review. I'm a little bummed it wasn't a trial. I am further bummed that it seems like it will never be a trial again for this quest line.
Yeah.
The idea of like piloting a mech, like it's I don't mean it's in the bad way, right? But this quest line and some elements of the MSQ just full on anime, right? Like you have Ali say at the end just like jumping off, like it's ridiculous. And then you can
That's a parody of an actual like
I don't doubt it.
Poster. The girl who jumped through time actually is the name of the anime.
Well, and you have this thing in Werlyt where when you're done, you can actually like go into like the little like hangar or whatever and like just take pictures of you standing next to the robot. Like, okay.
I took 50 of them, Fusion. I took so many screenshots. They wouldn't let me go into G pose in there though.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
But
it's a little limited, but but I it was all right. Like the idea of like a solo instance, it's right. It's one of those things where you can't fault them for them trying something new, but at the same time, like you're like, okay, you're in a flying robot. If I'm in a flying robot, why am I glued to the surface of the water? Right. That felt very restrictive. It felt cheap. So that's kind of lame. We had more than 3 actions, which was nice. It was like I think 5. The thing that really impressed me, though,
it costs so much energy to do all the rest of the stuff you have to do.
Right. Yeah. So you get this thing. There's a cool cutscene, and then you're basically just in this very wide open, flat water area with a cliff that initially I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's Kalusia. Right. It even has like a thing that looks like okay, there's some billions on top that are a little different. Right. I'm like, oh, they put a little something in there. That's cool. And then you finish the quest and you actually go into that town. And I was like, yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Going into Turncliffe, it has its own music. Like that was cool as hell. I was so surprised, but I was so surprised to have that, and that was amazing. What else did I say for other? I'm getting too caught up with just this. Yeah, so like it was cool. There's some issues with it. I wish it would have been a trial. We've had 2 trials in a patch before. Like that they're going this way is a little all right. And then I wanted to talk about flight in 2.0 areas.
Yeah.
We talked about this before the patch, and we're like, oh, like it's probably gonna be really restrictive. There's gonna be stupid invisible walls, and that's fine. Like if that's how we get flight, like it, if that's what it needs to be, okay. They went above and beyond what I think anybody was expecting for this. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of cool stuff thrown in. 3 out of 4 for me for the other category.
I had the same as you. I did 3 out of 4. And it's funny because part of me feels like I almost could have made this 4 out of 4, but at the same time, I'm okay with the main story being my only 4 out of 4 this time around because like that 4 is so high. Like that bar is so high because it just blew me away. So like 3 out of 4 is not me saying by any means that it's bad. I actually think that we got some insanely huge quality of life things, especially for new players, including the expansion of the free trial cap, including the streamlining of all the quests, including the addition of various new gear in certain dungeons as you leveled, so you don't look like you're just dressed in a down comforter all the time, and or a thong made of metal. Which some people's jam, so do it. Wear
pillow jacket.
It's just
marshmallow pillow jacket.
So that was really cool.
Armor.
The flight in A Realm Reborn, like you were saying, Fusion, they went above and beyond. There's all these little hidden places and new parts that they added into maps and areas that you can now continuously fly between without having to ferry, which is amazing. Like that stuff for me, 4 out of 4, huge. Especially even going back in with all the other stuff with New Game Plus and adding all the job quests and all those sorts of things. That's amazing. All great. I guess the 3 out of 4 kind of comes from the fact that I really enjoyed the Sapphire weapon. Again, like I thought it was cool. I love the anime. Gundam was one of the very first shows I ever watched, right alongside Sailor Moon and Neon Genesis Evangelion. So, it was...
it was made for you. You're good. Yeah.
That's when Neon Genesis is when I fell face first into it and realized just how bizarre and terrifying anime could be, and then kept coming back for more. So, like, I was super into it, and it also helps that my personal character has connections to technology and ancient Alec and all sorts of stuff. So I was like, "Oh, this is extra neat."
Now I have to ask a very important question. Did you glamour Lost Allegan gear before you did the cutscenes?
I already look. My character already has a look, and she was ready. She already had the look that it's sort of around that, so she was ready.
Okay.
And I did take 1,000 pictures of her in this mech because I always thought it would be super cool if we could pilot one. Since the ultimate
it did look pretty cool.
But the main thing here is that I feel as though it were a promise of something more and not a delivery, if that makes sense. Like, not to say that it let down my expectations, but I believe that more than actually being like full content in and of itself, it is something that will be relevant in the expansion or coming up or in the continuous story. The fact that we have this whole new zone, they would not create assets, they would not create a whole new city, they would not create all these things unless they're going to be using those assets or already are elsewhere. I have no doubt that this hangar, the mech, they talk about upgrading it over time. You can go examine all the different parts of it.
Yeah.
I'm super curious if like that means it's going to actively become a weapon that we will use in certain content moving forward through expansions and things. If it will play a role in the story, if it will, I have no idea.
At bare minimum, I think Turncliffe is just our base of operations going forward for this quest line. And the fact that we even have that kind of zone for that is awesome. You know, whether or not that cost us other content, I don't know. Oh
like when we had the little corner of the Dome and Enclave that was kind of like you know the only finished part, and I'm kind of like, hey, if we want to like rebuild this town, that's fine with me. It's beautiful. Let's get housing here too. Yes, thank you.
It's interesting, right? Because you know we talk about stuff like the new dungeons. Like we've been, you know, it goes through the areas we've been here already. It would have been cool to go somewhere new, but then like we have random little instance town, and you're like, okay, like
where did this come from?
Where's the cost and the decisions? It's interesting to me. I mean, you know, I love Turncliffe. I think it's great, but if we didn't have Turncliffe, could we have like maybe had the dungeon go somewhere new? Like you gotta.
No, I mean, that's why I think it is an asset that is being developed for something else that they have purposed into this, right? Like the fact too that Milk Drinker, can I just Milk Drinker?
Milk Drinker.
I had to dock a whole point because of that sweaty milk mess. No, I'm kidding. He is far more in one cutscene. This man feels more like a compelling villain to me than even Xenos and Fancy Pants. What is his real name?
Fancy Pants.
Or Fandaniel.
Fandaniel. I call him Fancy Pants.
I mean, it works.
I thought you were talking about Milk Drinker. I know Milk Drinker's name.
Milk Drinker is more compelling to me because, I mean, the details in that cutscene were so untraditionally villainous, but so upsetting. Like, just how weird and sweaty he is, how much he looks like a weird, like he's like the Midlander model, so he looks almost like a teenager, but he's so ominous. And then he drinks the milk. The milk, though, guys, the milk really destroyed me. And the whole weird milk analogy and the children that dress him, like there was so much in that one scene that immediately made him memorable to me.
Right.
We also learned that the world has cows.
And the world has cows.
I mean, it could be goat milk. We do have goats.
Chocobo.
Did he say cows?
He said cows.
He said cow.
We have not had an animal revelation like this since it was discovered that bears existed. Yes, you know what's up.
But yeah, so I did 3 out of 4 mostly because I agree that like I would have, again, feeling like we were maybe lacking a little bit on some of the balance of like new combat content or instance content or things like that. I liked the mechanics. I thought it was a really fun distraction. I thought it was super cool. But is there a lot for me to continue doing or working on? No, but it did feel like something that was a setup for something bigger, whether that's, again, themes of what we're going to be doing, pushing back the Garlean invasion, new villains, how we're going to be using this weapon, if that weapon and the Heart of Sabik are going to play a larger role than we assumed moving forward into the expansion. I have no idea. So those things were promising, but right now didn't feel like we got a lot of delivery. It's just kind of like here's some setup of stuff.
Oh, it's I there's not a doubt in my mind that stuff, even though it's like a side quest right now, like we're gonna get through this stuff, we're gonna kill the rest of Gaius's orphans, and then it's gonna be like, okay, let's like actually go to Garlemald now. Hey Gaius, what's up? There's an Ascian still. Oh, let's go. I'm ready. Let me at him. Like that's it. That's the arc. That's how that's gonna go.
So for me, you can go ahead, Charles.
Oh no, I was just saying,
Okay. So for me, I brought this up briefly last time. My first and main complaint about the Garlean children's robot storyline, sorry, Werlyt, that's what the real name is, was that it felt like they were going to do matchy hair with each robot that they went into, and they didn't. They had a whole scene where a dude walks in and he's like, all right, I have to get in my robot now. And the other kid who's in there's like, no, brother, I suck and you don't. So you should live because this is a death mission. And so he gets in the robot instead. And I was like, well, all of my thoughts and previous assumptions are wrong. And I have to give this a 4 out of 4 instead.
It's kind of funny when you think about it. Like you have like this one character, we really don't know anything about him. He's a little forgettable because he's just kind of in and out, piloting the weapon that's based on Van who was this?
Yeah.
Oh, that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean that's not really the reason that like, I gave Other a 4 out of 4, but I did appreciate that they subverted my expectation because
They mix it up a little bit.
I was legit like, really, this is so anime. Do you have to do this? And while it is still anime,
Oh, it is completely anime.
I feel like they stuck to the less just bottom barrel terrible stuff.
Right.
A lot of people really enjoyed the Gundam responses you got to give while you were in the mech.
Uh-huh.
Yes, those are so great.
I could only guess at what they were because while I don't dislike mecha anime, it's not my go-to. So I was like, this serious answer, that's probably it. I'm going to pick the goofball answers now.
I mean, look, G Warrior, do the thing.
Yes, do the thing.
I
liked when we got their heads up displays, and it was basically like Star Fox 64, where it was like blank image and just the mouth is moving.
Yeah,
that was pretty great.
Oh, that I didn't even think about it that way. There's some photoshops need to be done now, I think.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, there's other stuff in the other category. Should we finish out this one? Should we let Glenn finish out this one, or can I jump around?
Go ahead.
I mean... Glenn, tell us what you think about the robot stuff.
So I feel like I misunderstood the assignment when I thought of other. Well, let's go back to Sapphire Weapon. I enjoyed it. My biggest qualm is that we can't do it again. Like, I would love to hop back in there and be like, oh, let's do this again. Because I feel like I learned the abilities. They were fun. I definitely messed up. I almost died 7 times in one encounter. But I want to do it again to try to see if I can, like, not like min-max it, but like, oh, can I do a better job? Can I see how long I can, like, deplete all my whatever the replacement MP was?
I definitely, like, I beat it right before it beat me.
I kept having this issue when I used the laser. One would not get hit by it, and I wouldn't even notice until suddenly it was on me and it exploded. And I was like, why?
They needed to be packed just like a little tighter, or in just like a straight line of singles, because when you target one and they're in 2 layers, you're gonna miss like 1 or 2 unless you really line it up. Yeah.
I think the first 2 times I got it right, and then I saw one was left. I'm like, wait a minute, and I flew as fast as I could. Like, oh my god, wait, hold on, let's go. And I was freaking out every other time because I kept missing just one, and then these AOEs would happen, and then it was a lot. But overall, I love the new map so much. It's that nice, like, by the sea look, and the architecture was so European, and it reminded me of Santorini. And I was like, I want to see more of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it was so like different, and it was so unexpected, which just made it so much better. Yeah.
Is that Garlemald's like true architecture style when you take away all the metal? Is that because they are Roman?
I'm a little worried, and this is a little tinfoil hat because we're going on 3 hours almost. I'm a little worried that our arc is going to be like, okay, so like Garlemald is kind of falling apart, Civil War, Xenos is technically in charge, but he doesn't really care. Gaius obviously still cares about Garlemald and stuff, and I feel like we're going to go in there, just remove Xenos from the throne, and then we're going to make Garlemald the happy empire. And that, I don't know.
I don't think they'll do that. I mean, if you look at just the nuance of storytelling, right? I mean, and we've had a lot of this. I don't think that's what we're going to see. We've even seen with characters like Fordola and Yotsuyu and so many of these other, and now Gaius, right? We've seen an examination of the effects of war. And I don't think that they're just going to be like, and now everything's rainbows. I think we'll probably, and hopefully, and I think this is what will make an expansion based around Garlemald interesting, see more of that actual, like, okay, this is a conquering nation. This is a nation that's also been horribly misdirected by people, and while there's a lot of ingenuity and promise there in characters kind of like Sid, right? It's gonna take a lot to change that, and I think we've seen them do something semi-similar with Ishgard, which, if you like are doing a lot of the post quests and things, still has a lot of problems. Like, there's still a lot of bad stuff that's happening in Ishgard, even as they're trying to change society and Emmerich's trying to lead that up. So I would really like to see them kind of examine that, but we'll just have to see, because I do think that, like, a lot of the main story of Stormblood felt a little bit more like fun time nationalistic than I thought it would when I was like, I thought we were going into like a crushed nation that
Yeah.
had their identity and
I'm
culture.
I'm really worried that 6.0 is just going to be Stormblood with Garlemald instead of Alamigo. That's my biggest worry right now.
I personally really love war stories because there's so much that goes into them, like the warring, because it's not War Nation now, but now a conquering nation. The ideas, the propaganda, the type of people that like the lifestyle to be there. I am hoping that if they go that route, that they do it much better in the Stormblood. Because Stormblood, we had to like establish Alamigo and Doma. Like we were in Alamigo, then we had to go to Doma because the first plan didn't work out. So we thought, okay, if we hit them from another side and attack this other viceroy, we can actually go ahead and it was like it made sense, but it didn't feel like it was paced that well. And also the main MSQ for Stormblood was so long. So I'm hoping that when we go back, Garlean, if that's the case, that they do a better job with like the whole like war nation and whatnot. Also, funny enough, when we first saw more people from Garlemald, I thought that there wouldn't be like Makotes or Rogadins. I thought it would be very much like a higher race, like oh, it's only these type of people from here. So that was interesting when I saw other races from there.
Yeah.
There's a
Those are
very
just people that they stole at a young age.
Yes, well, like there's a very interesting, I mean, almost semi-caste system, ranking system within Garlemald, right? And I think a lot of it is based off of ancient civilization. The idea of like, you know, we conquer people, and so you get this temporary sort of allowance to be a part of our nation, basically to be our foot soldiers. And you get like brought into this. And I mean, Fordola is a perfect example of this, right? She gets told that her entire homeland, her home culture, her people are lesser than. They are weak. They are insuperior. They're not superior. They are, you know, inferior. And that if she, you know, follows this right way, she can become strong and powerful and work her way up and maybe one day gain whatever recognition she's allowed to. Because there's like a certain tier that non-Garlean natives can achieve within the empire. So like those themes are interesting, and having like a nation that has to deal with that, because like not everyone in that nation is of that mindset. And we know that there are some like underground movements and things. We know that there, you know, obviously are people within that system that are revolting against it, or even stuff with Boja, like the group that's out there is very different. We were discussing that during the Boja lore episode than a lot of the other, you know, sort of groups that have been formed out of, you know, conquered nations and or Garleans. So it's very interesting to see that. I just hope they don't wimp out on it if they're going to make it a theme in the game, because I think like you have to just hit it head on and try to deal with those themes in a, you know, mature and interesting way.
And I don't know if they will, because when you think about the story that we've gotten, I mean, just this last patch, right? We had the idea of like, oh, the black robed Asians. They were mentioned a couple times. It was just going on. We never even saw them. And we've had for several patches now this little bit of story with Garlemald and stuff. All sorts of stuff has been happening. We haven't really seen any of it. And now we have Xenos is kind of there. We have the Boja stuff happening over here. And I feel like if they were going to touch on that, I feel like time bubble aside, right? I feel like timeline wise, the ship has sailed for a lot of stuff, I feel like.
Right.
So I'll be really curious where we're actually going next and how they tie things together, which is really weird, because when we had 5.0, we're like, oh, we're just completely taking a left turn and not even going over here. We're going to a whole other planet now. And now that we're coming back, it's just like, I don't know.
So this is what I've been waiting for weeks.
Yeah.
Charles, please tell me how you feel about the Sorrow of Werlyt.
As a huge borderline obsessive Gundam fan, like literally every single series, I loved it, right? But I think that, you know, talking about Garlemald, it's funny that we started talking about this before I talked about the Gundam stuff. It really shows, and Rook, you're right, like all these people who are not, you know, they're not actually Garlean, you know, like they are just nothing. Like these Aura, that was the plan, to kill them. Like they say it in the story
They're
of the
fodder.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are just, they don't the Garleans are not going to pilot these things. They're going to give it to underlings to then pilot. And I thought that was really cool that they said that. To me, it's a little bit over the top, right? Like the milk drinker is a little bit over the top. It's a little bit. He gets a little cartoony, a little bit, right? Because that's another thing about Gundam. okay, a lot of them, a lot of the older ones, a lot of Universal Century are about war being hell. That's literally the quote from the creator. War is hell. That's why he does this. That's why people die. And like, I'm afraid that, yeah, they won't go all the way. Like you're saying, Rook, like, it's so awesome. I love being able to press the button that lets me say that I'm launching, like, yes, or, like that sort of stuff. We were talking about pyretic. Did you notice that one of your abilities is a pyretic booster that if you move, you take damage? In the machine, that's your power up. It's a pyretic booster. Yeah. When you have it on, you're on fire, so you take damage. That
makes sense.
Right.
I didn't pick that up. Yeah.
Oh, I was obsessing over the names of these buttons and what they did. And, how does this
I
work?
noticed it said pyretic, but I didn't notice I was taking damage.
Yeah, you take damage as you.
Yeah, that's why you don't have it on the whole time. Yeah, you gotta choose when to put it on.
Like, I really like that sort of like bringing in the lore to the mech, but yeah, I really really loved it. But it won't be Gundam. It won't be that true like mecha kind of real robot type if there's not consequences, So I'm like, I want to see more to really know. But it was beautiful. I don't know why.
So you're hoping that they crush the all players, all characters involved.
Yes, I do hope that every last one of them dies. Like, that's one of the things about it. He's called Killamal Tomino. That's the name of the director of Gundam. That's his nickname. It's kind of like Yoko Taro, right? If you're going to step into an auteur's shoes or have them bring some stuff in, go all the way. So hopefully, I gave it a 4 out of 4 for other, mostly because of flying, which I did not believe that they would go that far.
Yeah.
The free trial and the Sorrow of Werlyt, like those three were just amazing to me.
The only place I've been disappointed with the flying was Middle Lenosha. Because if you get up over to Summerford where we were the other day and you look away from the city, it's like, this is
empty,
not good.
There are some areas where you're like, oh hey, draw distance, right? It just
there are no.
I don't know if that's
like tucked a mountain under some grass, and it was like, oh, that's not good perspective, friends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm really hoping that 6.0 is a war story and it is just as impactful as Shadowbringers has been, but for a different reason,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, because there are so many ways to heighten storytelling, right? And this is part of what really we're talking about, being worried about the future, like if the next X Pack will be as good, right? But really, when I think about it, the setting was fantastic. Learning things like Emerald, that's incredible. Those reveals are unbelievable. I mean, it has elevated the game for sure. But when I really think about what I think has made this expansion so memorable, and we were even talking about it with that cutscene and stuff, right? It is the storytelling. It's the heart of the story. It's the characters. It's all of those things that are being handled so beautifully that I feel like even if we don't have that massive over-the-top fantasy reveal element, I do believe we can still have a really well-told and meaningful and gorgeous story. And I mean, of course, they're gonna put something in there that's huge, and they have plans, and like they've had plans for ages. But like, to me, I think it will be even more impressive if they can take something like On the First. They can take something like a war story. They can even go back knowing that Stormblood was its own hot mess in a lot of ways. Like, and they can really tell a tight, beautiful narrative that's just like streamlined and has incredible characters and nuance that shows that like it doesn't always have to blow your mind with some kind of ancient, long lost to history revelation. You can have stories that are impactful because we all have shared the human experience. And so like, I'm really hoping, and I'm sure we'll get cool stuff too, but like, I mean, of course, they have a lot to build on, but Garlemald, honestly, people give it a lot of crap about being like the least interesting, just nonsense. And to me, I've always been like, I actually think it's very interesting and it's very relevant, but it will take a lot of sensitivity and courage to tell that story. And, you know, we don't know. In a fantasy setting and in a game like Final Fantasy, they may want to focus on other things, but I think that they could have a really impactful story if they decided to explore it. So
they did a really good job with like showing risks throughout Shadowbringers. Like I thought at every other turn something bad was gonna happen because there was that risk of like us taking in all the light of what was gonna happen with Garahatia with everything. So I'm hopeful that the next expansion, no matter what, they will know what to do with the risk. Is now building everything around that.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
like
And
so many deaths.
Right, and as much as I've
admit
been like hating on what looks like what is next, right?
Yeah.
They made Shadowbringers, right? So prove me wrong, Square. Prove me wrong.
Also, can we go to the new world so we can learn more about blue mages? Thank you.
Yes.
That would be
New
very
And
world
Dancer.
and Dancer. New world, Sherlion. There are
Yeah.
parts of the map that I think a lot of us have wanted to go to for a long time. So hopefully.
Mhm.
There's that big ol' ass cloud in the middle. Uncover it.
Yeah. What's under it? Show us those things.
Yeah. Did everybody give their score for other?
I give it
Are
3.
we done with other?
Except for-
Yeah.
All right. So, patch 5.3 has a final score of 83 out of 100.
Ooh.
So,
What's
in
the
case
Score.
so in case you were curious,
MSQ.
I did actually put something
you mean
together.
Okay.
So for Shadowbringers, and again note that the categories have changed a little bit. 5.0 was a 92 out of 100. 5.1 was an 85. 5.2 was a 77, which actually I believe was our lowest reviewed patch. With I think the first patch review was 4.5, so 5.2 is worse than 4.5. And then 5.3 here, which is an 83.
Interesting. I did really feel like, I mean, this one was so much the story, right? And it's like, when you look at that story category, I mean, everyone rated it just out of this world, right? But it is like the other stuff within 5.3, it's a little mix of things. But really, I think the story itself in this one was such an accomplishment. And was so well done. I mean, I can't wait to see what the rest of this particular patch cycle has to offer as far as Boja and things like that go, because I think that's where we'll see more of the like content ratings maybe shine.
Yeah.
Depending what we get.
Hopefully.
Well, I think some of the issues too with 5.3, right? Again, something completely out of Square's control was what has gone on with the pandemic. And because of that, a side effect of it, right, is we have been really hurting for new stuff. And so we already only get one dungeon a patch. Hey, here's the next dungeon. Great. It's just kind of areas that you are already familiar with. Oh. And so thematically, storyline wise, lies, like fighting Warrior of Light on top, at the throne in Crystal Tower. We've been here before, but it made sense. But because of things that weren't necessarily the fault of that content itself, it felt lacking. It felt repetitive. So I think that could be part of it. But ultimately, it was a solid patch. 83. That's passing, right? If you want to look at it that way. So.
And emotionally,
most places, right?
Yeah, I think
it made Rook cry.
Oh yes.
Oh my god! It
Not
made
just
me
Rook.
Yeah.
We all cried.
Let's go back. What going to the MSQ?
Yeah.
One scene. Pick one scene that really just got you. One.
I can do it quick.
You can't
can't.
do that. You can't make
Can't
us
do one.
that.
Lena.
I can do one.
Lena saying goodbye. Lena giving
Lena.
her speech to everybody. I don't know why, but that specific, I'm not even that fond of that character, but that specific scene where
I
where
legit
basically the
forgot she was a
Astarium is
character
saying
until she showed up
goodbye
again.
to
And I was like,
everybody.
oh right, Lena.
Yeah, no, like that got me. It's like, all right, this is the end. Even more so than like Thancred and Reen saying goodbye. I feel like Reen had already steeled herself and was ready. It was like, these people are gonna leave me and it's fine. And I'm a big girl. Whereas Lena was like, okay, guys, you're awesome. We'll see you around never again.
So for me, oddly enough, was the scene with Julia Chai.
Julia
talking
cried.
to Alphino. That was the one that just really got me. And I not to say that I didn't get emotional about some of the other stuff, but for whatever reason, that was the one that just got me. The idea of these kind of parental figures, right, for Alphino, and they're having to say goodbye, and the fact that like we've never actually seen Alphino and Alix's real parents, even though they're still out there somewhere. That was the one for me.
Seto.
Oh
Seto.
yeah, that one was
Seto
good
and
too.
Ardbert, like, I was like, please, Ardbert is in there. Just touch, just pet the Amaro. Just pet it. And when you get that scene of, like, you know, close your eyes and then feeling the soul of Ardbert, oh my goodness. That's so great.
I'm gonna be completely honest, and that's I'm glad that you have a favorite thing. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to bash that. I was like, who's Seto? Like, I completely forgot about this bird. I am like,
that.
who?
Seto
Like, I had
Kaiba?
no idea.
Kaiba.
I didn't remember him at all.
Okay. Well, Fusion 1, you're a monster. But 2, he's the literal goodest boy. He's literally what made me get off my butt and level every combat class to 80, which I am currently almost done with. So help me.
So,
Because I wanted
and maybe,
Amaro
you know,
so bad.
I still have quests to do over there. Like, I didn't completely do all the Amaro stuff. I still need to do all the role quest stuff. So maybe that ties a little bit into it. But they're like, yeah, go see Seto, and I was like, who? It's like, oh, the bird. Oh, yeah, okay. I kind of remember a little bit.
Mhm.
For me, it was well, first of all, I'll just say I cried at every single point that was made to make you cry.
That's
I
fair.
cried
That's
so
fair.
much that I was wearing contacts. My contacts were ruined, and I had to take them out because they were just like so like it was.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, why can't I see? Because like the tears were just it was a lot of culmination. Anyways, the part that really got me was when we were all together and Reen had to take a minute, and I've gotten to really just
Mhm.
like love Reen as a person, as a character. Like she's so young, she's had to do so much, and it brought me back to the whole like Reen and Minfilia, which I
Mhm.
so that was my part. Just speaking with Reen and
I
thinking about how she's
yeah.
going to continue.
I am so upset with the way they handled the Thancred Reen stuff towards the end. Because
It
all
could have
these
been
other
more significant.
Yeah.
it was why did you even take us over to Amarang at all? We didn't see anything. Like, it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna go and lay flowers down. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's such a great narrative thing to do. And then you get there, it's like, yeah, we're done. You missed it.
Maybe it'll be like a flashback later or something.
We can go like help Urianger like pack up his books or some stupid thing like that, but we can't go like pay respects to like our 2.0 quest giver.
My thought was that it was their way of building the dramatic tension between them and like showing that they are both bad at communicating, which we've seen time and time again, and that they had not truly addressed what needed to be addressed. And so then like when Reen has this moment where she's like, oh my gosh, I really realized that I just don't even know what to say, and I didn't say what I wanted to say. Like, that felt believable to me, but I do agree that it felt very weird to me going over there after just having sobbed my eyes out over Seto, who might have been my big one, Aldino, as well, but I'll think of a different one too.
Yeah.
But like, it was really strange, even if like we didn't just get the opportunity to go over, and even if they were gone, like to just stand there or like be by the flowers or have some kind of closure with
The whole like Thancred Reen goodbye, like, it's weird because we kind of had a little bit of that from the last Leg of Eden. And so like right in a patch where we're like, oh, it's repetitive. I feel like they needed to go harder on it. I feel like it was just it wasn't as emotional as I feel like it should have been. And part of that is that flower thing. Part of it is just like their kind of goodbye, in the Crystarium. Like, I felt like it could have had a little bit more feels to it than it did.
I was thinking, what if maybe it has something to do, and this can be complete ignorance for me, but like maybe something to do with Japanese culture and just the showing of like affection publicly is not the norm, especially like the
Sure.
whole head pat. Like for me, I never liked the idea of head pats, but like I know it's something that's done in anime. I don't know if that's a culture thing in Japan, but that's when I actually had that thought when I kept seeing the head pat. I was like, oh, maybe this is how like when it comes to this kind of authoritative balance.
Yeah.
Well, they're not technically father-daughter, but it's still shaped that way. But definitely Thanker is the superior in this point when it comes to like the whole like polite hierarchy when it comes to Japanese culture.
It's
That's what I was thinking.
it's a weird mix, right? Because like the head pet thing, that's Thancred's thing, right? That show of affection is he does that. But also, like, they want to, she wants to prove to him that she'll be fine and she's strong. But like when he does that, I'm like, dude, I just wanted her to just be like, hug him, right? Like, I really wanted that to happen, and it didn't. And I don't know.
Yeah, a hug could have gone a long way there. And
yeah.
I'm sure some of it too is the fact that like out of all the stuff that we got to see sort of built on in those, like that victory lap, right? None of them had really been fully explored as much as Reen and Thancred already had in the Shadowbringers story, right? Like we have whole massive arcs about them understanding each other and that strange, like, you embody everything I regret and are a person, like when I look at you I see a person that I feel I failed and that I loved more than anyone. Like as opposed to like seeing her for who she is. So like we have a massive arc already with that, so I'm sure they also felt like, well, let's give more to the other characters. But I do agree that a hug, I was like, hug your daughter.
I was like, when that didn't happen, I was surprised. I was very, very surprised that didn't happen.
Yeah, the Runar Ishtola scene got mentioned in chat, and that was the cutest thing I ever seen in my whole life. It was so adorable. Yeah. And that boy is so good. He's the cutest boy. He gave her a flower. He gave him a whole flower, and I just
as opposed to like half a flower.
Yeah, just one petal.
Yeah, it was so cute. I was like, that's adorable.
She's like, brah, I really have to leave. I'm gonna die if I stay. But you know, I'm like a really awesome mage, so I could be back. I could be back. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll hit you up.
That was funny. Yeah.
Cute. Okay, so if we already said Seto, it's tough. I mean,
it can still be Seto. It's okay if it's the same one that made Aldi cry. It's okay.
Seto did make me sob because animal stories always get me. But it was so sweet, and I was not expecting them to do that. Like,
it was nice.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the one that really got me that was sort of weird that I don't know if many other people were really so affected by was when what's her name? The Fae that helps them with everything.
Fail?
Yeah, Fail.
Who's helping with the soul transference?
Baklek.
Yes.
Right?
When she is reciting what the Crystal Exarch told her about hope, that one obliterated me.
Yeah.
And then the stones. And the stones, I think, is a big one for everybody. That moment was obviously designed to make you sob. But that was also one that caught me off guard because the way that they work in that snippet about happier days, like, and that audio that you hear and those little things that, like, again, talking about masterful storytelling, like, they don't have to sit there and be like, I had so many friends back in old Amarat and it was unbelievable to me that once they were all gone, I was lonely. And like, they didn't have to do that. There's a single snippet in a rock that's just like, that's talking about happier days and this imagery. And when you see him there and like that line about the sunshine, and I think on the recording which I was doing, I was sitting there and I was like, oh, he's a kid now. Oh no, oh geez. And then that line happened and I went, oh, and then I just like sobbed because it was not something that I expected they would do, and the way they unfolded it all made sense in that one moment, and then it was just waterworks, like, and I was just gone.
We will meet again. We will.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to people?
And like it was good, but at the same time too, like for me personally, right? Because everybody's gonna have their own view on this. Like, yes, it was emotional, but like I also really didn't care about Elidibus as much as like Emmett Selk. Because for us, he's just been this guy. He's just always been that antagonist. And then just with this patch, suddenly he's like, I'm having faults. And then it's just like, it's done. We fight him and it's over. And it's like, all right.
I agree. I don't think that it was him that really got me in that moment. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think can be argued again about like the strength or weakness of having him step in after we've already done away with Emmett Selk. Like it is strange. Like there is a dissonance there. I think for me, what got me in that moment wasn't him as a character. I think it was that more universal experience.
Sure.
That idea of all of us, you know, having things we may have lost in our lives, or having people who have been that sunlight to us, that we have met and that we love, and that should we ever be parted from, we would want to see again. Oh God, here we go.
Wow.
Well, we can't go too far. It's been 3 hours.
I know, but like,
oh my gosh,
that is what I think got me about that moment. That it's and in many ways, I think Elidibus's struggle is not even necessarily about Elidibus, right? It's the culmination of all of the Asians.
It's the themes about it. and
Yes,
that's you know versus the actual characters and the I get that.
So I think that's what really got me, and that's what still hurts me.
Yeah.
Just you said sunshine, and I was like,
and you have to like we'll meet again, and this faith and this hope that like even if you lose things, that it doesn't always have to be forever, and that there are things that keep those alive for us, whether it's our memories or our connections or ties to others, or it's something even bigger or greater than us all. That really, really destroyed me and still continues, like I said, to destroy me. And obviously everyone can see that I'm a hot mess about it. And the same thing repeats in like Seto. The same thing repeats in that message of hope. Like now more than ever, I think connecting to one another and remembering the beautiful strength of loving one another in whatever way and sharing that love with others is just so poignant. And it just makes me so grateful to be a part of an MMO and a community where we get to meet people in that same way, where we get to be a Zem and we get to all travel and journey together. So I think that that's just what does it for me. And I'm done now with my talking.
Can't go on. Okay. So I think that's like we're over 3 hours now. Oh my gosh.
I'm not
and we can talk for another. There's so much stuff.
Right? Half of that was
But
one category
we have next week to delve back into that and do a lot of little picking.
We might need to try and be good and put a cap on next week. Otherwise, we'll be here all weekend, I think. So many tinfoil hats. All the stores everywhere where we'll just be sold out of aluminum foil. But yeah, okay. So we'll start to wrap this up. Glenn, thank you very much for joining us for this episode for our review show. Where can people find you?
Well, if you would like to find some funny little meme videos, I do have a Twitter account that I love to post there. My at is Hello Glenn Ángel. It's spelled angel, but I like to say it with Spanish accent because I am Hispanic. And my Twitch account is Glenn Ángel without the hello.
Okay.
And it's worth it. Like go follow this guy. He's hilarious.
He hilarious and a generous, beautiful soul. So please go follow Glenn.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So where is the button? I hit the wrong button last time. Let's do. Here we go. If you want, you can email us, aetheryradio@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at Aetheryte Radio. You can find us on Discord, discord.gg/gamerscape. We have an Aetheryte Radio channel there where you can chat with us about the show. We also have a spoilers channel, which will probably be up for one more week before we call that. And then you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Gamerscape as well. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. It was a very good discussion. I'm definitely looking forward to...
Thank you everybody who followed today as well.
Yes, definitely looking forward to Lorecast next week. I think it'll be a lot of fun. If you missed it, we did our 11-year anniversary Dungeon Siege stream last Tuesday. The VODs are up. The YouTube should be up shortly. It was having some export issues.
They big videos.
They are long, and there was a disconnect in the middle because of course there was. So make sure to check those out if you haven't already. Our announcement for Aetheryte Radio First Edition is in there as well. Maybe we can clip that out or put it out separately or something. We'll figure that out. So keep an eye out on social, and we'll talk about dates and stuff when we figure them out. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you here next week.
Bye. Bye everyone.
Bye.